That's my kickoff sound. Here it goes.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What is the deal, Panther Nation? It's your boy, the Professor. They call me Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast. It's live, 9 o'clock on Tuesdays. Not missing the beat. And we got the whole crew in the house tonight to help us get through this mess together. Cody Lashney back from the dead. Glad to have you back. You're looking good. Oh, gosh, you're going to be pissed. You're going to be so pissed.
God damn you, Tony Dunn.
Oh, gosh. You could hear me, couldn't you? Y'all could hear me. Let me see. Yep, I muted one mic, not both. Let's run it back. All right.
Okay.
Cody Lashney. He's back from the dead.
2. Testing
Yeah,
1, 2.
They can hear you now. I know
Hey,
they can.
Tony, I'm going to slap the fucking shit out of you.
Yes, please do.
Okay. No. Good. So, okay, let me mute my sound. All
They
right.
say you have...
No, I heard me, I think.
Okay. You got to have sound now. You got to have sound.
I do have sound. No, let me just say this, man. Thank you to everybody for all the well wishes. I spent some time in the hospital. I'm doing much better now. You cannot keep me down. In light of recent events, man, dude, I know I say it every Tuesday night, but there is nowhere I would rather be on a Tuesday night than chopping it up with my boys on the C3 podcast, with the most lit Panther fans in the YouTube chat. Brad Dugan, Underground West, J-Dub, T-Money, Pigskin Pete, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's fucking roll.
CK's been waiting a damn week to hear your voice, and then I did that to you. CK, welcome back to the C3 Panthers podcast.
Hey, guys. I blame Cody for his absence for all of this going down the way that it has. You're gone for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and they fucking lose their minds. So
I know, man.
Man, it's good to be here to be able to chop this up with you guys, especially you, Cody. We've been obviously lost without your direction on the what this franchise is doing and what we're getting and moving forward and what the future looks like. But man, it's I think we have some questions that from last week's podcast that I think we're going to be waiting and asking for you tonight to answer. So anyway, man, let's get this thing rolling.
I'm pumped.
Let's go.
We got our favorite stormtrooper in the house as well. Greg, the stat daddy. What's up, man?
Man, I am ready to talk some Panthers football. And Cody, I'm so glad you're back because it makes the show all that much better. We have a lot to talk about this week, y'all.
I need to leave more often just so I can come back and y'all can tell me how much y'all miss me.
We did miss you. I also think we should all do the show in stormtrooper helmets and we would get a lot more views.
It's like my COVID-19 protection mask.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, so we're here hitting the podcast up. We like the guys said, there is a lot to talk about. Tonight's show, Panthers sign Robbie Anderson, release Cam Newton, and trade Kyle Allen. That is the suggestion for the show based on YouTube keywords. My real suggestion for the title of the show is Kyle Allen is worth a 5th round pick and Cam Newton is worthless? What in the world? But we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be discussing the addition of Robbie Anderson. We also have Scott Mason joining the program from Play Like a Jet podcast to help us figure out what we got in Robbie Anderson as a player. He's going to be coming on at 1/2 We've got your calls. The Cat Calls line is 252-228-5098. We want to hear your input on Cam Newton's release, the acquisition of Robbie Anderson, the continued non-direction of this direction, and we're going to try to figure it out together with you guys tonight. Let's go ahead and start just talking about the news that has to be the news today. Is official. The Carolina Panthers released Cam Newton. They cut him. They got absolutely zilch for him. Not only do we lose our favorite player, the person who has made us relevant for a decade, but we really just broke up with the hottest chick we ever had, and we ain't even got any fish in the lines in the water. How can we not get any assets out of this, Cody?
I mean, listen, man, I'm just as confused as everybody else, and this is I've heard that we tried to trade Cam Newton to the Bears and the Chargers before we released him, but this has been in the rumor mill for a long time now that the Chargers have been interested in Cam Newton, but they were just going to wait until the Panthers cut him. And there's no way that they weren't going to when you sign Teddy Bridgewater and then you sign the dude from the XFL whose name escapes me right now. So I don't know, man. I just I want to take a minute to speak about Cam Newton, man. Because once upon a time in my Panther fandom, I was ashamed to say that that I wasn't a Panthers fan until Cam Newton brought me to the football team. Because I thought that everybody was going to call me a bandwagon fan. And you haven't been around since Jake Delhomme and blah, blah, blah. Whatever, dude. Now I wear that shit like a badge. Okay? Cam Newton is the reason I love this football team. And I said a few months ago that I knew this was going to happen. I read the tea leaves. I did not feel that Cam Newton was going to be the quarterback of the Panthers in 2020. But it didn't lessen the blow, man. I feel like I kind of got back on that train of, man, with Joe Brady here now and Cam Newton and Matt Rule. Cam still wants to be the face of the franchise when Greg Olsen is moving on and Luke Kuechly is retiring. I felt like I kind of duped my own self again. But after this whole thing has happened, man, I don't know. I feel like we're going to regret this move in the short term. And I'll tell you what I'm not going to do, man. I'm not going to come on here and shit on Teddy Bridgewater. I will say I do find it funny that we're moving on from Cam Newton because Cam Newton is so injury prone. Yet we signed a guy whose knee exploded like a bomb on a non-contact play in training. And yet we're not worried about him being injury prone, but we are about Cam Newton.
Cody, I needed you last week, buddy. I needed you.
Dude, that just doesn't make a whole lot of fucking sense to me, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm not going to pull against Teddy Bridgewater, but the level of talent between Teddy and Cam Newton it's a night and day difference, and people have duped themselves into thinking that the Cam Newton that they've seen the last 2 years is the player that he is now. And everyone's about to find out, especially if he goes to a good football team, that he still has a ton left. And he's about to have a badass season next year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
CK, did the Panthers? CK, did the Panthers shoot themselves in the foot for the way they handled this? Because now everybody just waited for them to cut Cam Newton. Your thoughts about Carolina not getting anything out of this moment?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anybody would have thought that.
My man.
Now I feel left out. I need a mask or something.
Now with mine back on.
This is my son's, and I honestly can't hear you guys, so I'm gonna actually put this down here again. So yeah, I mean, of course they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, you just let go of the best thing that's ever happened to this franchise with nothing, not even a 7th round pick. I mean, we were all sitting there talking about like what would make you okay with the idea of trading Cam Newton, and not a single one of us was thinking nothing. Like there would any draft picks would be better than what we got. I mean, let's be honest.
Kyle Allen got a 5th, dude. Kyle Allen got a 5th.
You couldn't even get a 6th round. Like, I mean, come on. There's plenty of people out there that probably should have been jumping on that opportunity. The problem is, and I think it's a good thing for the NFL, is that we have an excess as far as quarterbacks go, right? You know, quarterbacks that can get us there and win. We have a too many. I mean, a surplus, if you will. And so that, I guess that's why you find yourself in this situation. But
yeah.
But can I just say this real quick though? The Panthers have no one to blame but themselves for not getting anything in return for Cam Newton, because they showed their hand. If you're the Los Angeles Chargers, why would you give up any amount of draft capital for Cam Newton when you know they already signed Teddy Bridgewater and they just signed the XFL dude? So why in the shit would I give you any kind of draft capital at all at any round in any year if I know that eventually you're gonna cut him? You're gonna cut him, and then I'm gonna sign him for whatever the hell I want.
You know, this is exactly what I mentioned before. I said they did a piss poor job of playing the game. Like, we did not do a very good, like everybody else called our bluff, right? You know, like, all right, well, let's be honest, there's not going to be a lot of people calling Cam and offering what he wants to be paid. You know, especially with the Bears being out of the picture now that they've gotten Nick Foles' contract, which, by the way, is a little more massive than Cam's. I wouldn't say massive, but it's more expensive than Cam Newton's. And they had to give up a 4th round for it. You don't have any other teams out there that are quarterback hungry outside of the Chargers, and the Pats aren't going to pay him what he wants to be paid. So the Chargers realize in the reality that we live in that they're not going to have to compete with somebody else to get a contract up to where, you know, he wants it to be. He's going to have to take a prove it deal, a 1-year deal, and then hope that he can show out, you know, that he is the quarterback that he's been over the past, you know, 9 years. So I don't know. We'll see.
Could you imagine if Cam just became an MVP for hire every year? Just bouncing around every year to different teams, just falling out.
Here's the thing. I don't think Cam can do that. And I think Cam is great, but I think Cam takes a minute to actually learn a system. And I think bouncing around that's why he wants to stay. I mean, I think he doesn't want to have to restart. I mean, uproot his kids, have this whole situation where he has to continue to just bounce around. I think that's why he wanted to stay. I mean, let's be honest, going to LA is so far away from anything he's ever known. Like, everything he knows is in Atlanta and Carolina. That's it. Like, there is nothing else. So I think he wanted to stay. I think he legitimately did. But I have to point out something, and this is starting to piss me off. All right. The media is talking about how shitty Cam Newton's been treated. Well, they're part of the reason that Cam Newton's been treated shitty. So don't even sit here and talk about, you know, he should have been like, all of a sudden, now that he's not a Carolina Panther, he is this golden child that they love and they wish that he would have been treated better. I'm like, get off your high horse and stop being such freaking hypocrites at this point in time. It's starting to really get under my skin, as many articles as I've seen sitting there complaining about how he was treated. I agree he should have been treated better, but let's be honest, the media is a part of why he's treated so badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that Pigskin Pete is pointing out in the chat, the Panthers could have done Cam dirtier. And I wanted to say this last Tuesday, and I, of course, couldn't do it too sick. But they could have waited until after the draft and then cut him when all these other teams, they already had their future at quarterback. Either they drafted one, signed one, whatever. I mean, and listen, yeah, go ahead.
I would say that's like asking if you want a punch in the face or a punch in the nuts.
Yeah, listen.
Really. So.
It's not going to feel good. None of us feel good about this. I mean, like I said, it's like we're having to deal with the aftermath of this. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is a good thing for Cam Newton because he gets to bargain on his own. He gets to go with his agent and say, this is what we're wanting. They get to negotiate. It's not just, he doesn't have to play on this old contract. So if the Chargers might fall in love with him.
They're going to sign him to a 3-year deal.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody, because he's going to want
guaranteed.
Sign it
to 3-year, but then they'll put 2 on the guarantee. 2 years where they gotta. If they cut him after 1, they'll have to eat something, and then the 3rd year they'll have to eat nothing. He can't force a contract like Brady either, though, where it's like fully guaranteed. Exactly. So, I mean, we'll see. He's probably going to make a little bit more on a yearly basis. It's just how long will they extend it? Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I just want to ask CK, why do you think that he won't take anything unless he's guaranteed? Because he was willing to play in Carolina without guaranteed money.
No, I'm saying he's not going to get a guarantee. He's not getting. I don't see him getting more than a 2-year deal at this point in time.
Oh, I thought you were saying he wouldn't play there because he wouldn't get a guaranteed.
Well,
no, I'm saying
there is a story floating around, and there's not. I haven't seen a lot to substantiate it. But we don't know if it's noise that the team put out or what. But they were saying that Cam Newton wanted an extension, and that they were willing to give him 2 years, but his agent wanted 5, and that was the sticking point.
I called BS on that.
Yeah, I agree too.
I think it is something the team probably released. I think a lot of these things that are released are team oriented. Mainly, especially around money or anything like that. I think they were playing damage control. They are getting destroyed, not only by fans, but by media, by other teams. Like other people are just look at the Panthers right now as the laughing stock, right? At the way that they've handled this, the way they've handled this offseason, it's absolutely
they're being put in the conversation with like what's going on with Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so that's what I think is the reason that information leaked is they're playing damage control. I think that 5 years is probably the negotiation aspect of things. The agent said, we want 5 years. Well, we can't give you 5. So they were probably talking back and forth. And because he wanted 5 and they wanted 2, then that was an easy decision for them to say, all right, we're moving on. Have a good day. I think the agent wanted 5. But I don't know if they gave the agent an opportunity to go below that or not.
Right.
All right. Before we move on, you got anything to sneak in there real quick, Greg?
No, you go ahead. Good. You're good.
All right.
I'll talk about it later.
Before we're going to get into the cat calls, the number's 252-228-5098. But before we do that, at this time, what's going on in society, safety is at a premium. Every night, local police departments across America receive hundreds of calls from burglar alarms. The vast majority of the time, they don't know what's going on. It's just a motion sensor to them. But there is a company that can help you be more than a motion sensor, and that's Simply Safe Home Security. And I know that CK bought this device right here. How was it to set up, first of all?
Honestly, I was dreading it at first. I was like thinking this is going to be, it is the easiest thing I've ever set up in my life. Like I was thinking it was going to be all of this, trying to make sure things are perfectly lined up and like everything you can decide to use. If you don't want to destroy your paint, everything you can hang up with adhesive. You don't necessarily have to hang it up. I did use the screws to actually, secure it to the walls because I have the textured walls and it wasn't sticking very well. But I mean, it was very easy to set up. I'm thoroughly enjoying it because it's I don't know if you guys can see my phone or not, but like it's as easy as saying like home and away on your phone to be able to do the security. And this is so you guys can get a little taste of what I see. I can watch live my living room, which has a motion sensor.
Nice.
You might see my wife walk through, but like that's my living room and
look,
everything.
live feed. Boom.
Live feed.
That's the magic of internet security right there. I tell you this. You know what I thought about Simply Safe was my wife and I, since we've been doing this, we've been on lockdown. We've been going out for walks at night and stuff, and we listened to this podcast, like a true crime podcast about the Golden State Killer, the Golden Bridge Killer, like the guy that just got caught. And it's like terrifying. And I was like, God, we're going to go home and get Simply Safe. Mm-hmm. So look, the police dispatch up to 350% faster than a normal burglar alarm. You get comprehensive protection. It's only 50 cents a day with no contracts. Visit simplysafe.com/overtime. That's simplysafe.com/overtime. You'll get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. You've got nothing to lose. Go to simplysafe.com/overtime. Make sure you use that /overtime so they know we sent you. Guys, we'll go ahead and jump into the cat calls and see what people got to say. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Call into the show, 252-228-5098. Let's see what you guys got.
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in the snow? Who's that kid that can use one?
What's up, guys? It's Nick from up here in Mass. Just calling in to weigh in on this whole QB debacle. What are we doing signing another quarterback right now? So now we have Will Greer, Kyle Allen, Cam Newton, PJ Walker, and
yesterday. This is me yesterday.
Yeah, this came in yesterday.
The guy from the Saints. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Teddy
How many quarterbacks do we fucking need? Like, is this Tepper's way of saying, screw the O-line, we're just going to let them come right at our quarterbacks all season long?
I have a point to make on this.
I know we're going to cut down to probably, if I had to guess, probably 3. And seeing as how we signed, if I had to guess, it's probably going to end up being Kyle Allen that goes, and unfortunately Cam Newton. But at the same time, up until the PJ Walker signing, I was kind of thinking that maybe there would be like a QB shootout to see who would do better. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of PJ. Like, the Roughnecks, that was my team in the XFL. But this is a little excessive. Come on now. Why would you even bother signing Kyle Allen if you're going to go through and you're going to get 2 more quarterbacks after him? It just doesn't make any freaking sense. And then we cut Eric Reed. We cut everybody who has any sort of name other than Christian McCaffrey. But my guess is he's probably on his way out too, based off all the moves that David is making. I don't know, guys. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. Stay safe, everybody. Bye.
All right. So the thing that I will say for everybody to kind of take a step back, now that we see the dust settling with our quarterback situation, let's remember where Joe Brady came from before LSU. PJ Walker is Taysom Hill for our offense. Okay.
Good point.
So here's the thing that we're going to be dealing with. They're having 3 quarterbacks. They're going to be probably doing a lot of 2 quarterback sets. They're probably going to be doing a lot of the similar stuff. What we are, if you look at the way this team is built, we are a poor man's Saints. We have CMC, who is, in my opinion, a better version of Alvin Kamara.
That's fact.
Yeah, and so that's one. We have some a back behind him with Bonifon that can also do some things. Obviously, we saw that a little last year. We have a in my opinion, probably a more explosive receiving core We just haven't had anybody to be able to get the ball to them. Somebody was talking about how today with the signing of Robbie Anderson, it plays on Teddy Bridgewater's strengths, which is the deep ball. Forgive me, I don't remember Teddy Bridgewater's strength being the deep ball. Is that accurate? I mean, do you guys
I remember it not being
a strength, right?
Like he's basically like another version of Drew Brees. Look what Drew Brees is now. He's a distributor, but he's not necessarily a down the field thrower.
Yeah. So the three quarterbacks on the team right now, Greer, PJ Walker, and Teddy Bridgewater. Let's also keep in mind there is a possibility we still take somebody in the draft. Greer is not protected on this roster right now. There is still at 7 if the Chargers take Cam Newton and they don't pick up somebody like Kyle Love or Justin Herbert, we could still be in for an actual QB. And you got to remember, Teddy Bridgewater was a backup. And some might even say he was a third stringer with as much as Taysom Hill got the ball. As opposed to him outside of those 5 games. So there is a chance that Teddy Bridgewater isn't even our starting quarterback come the season starting. I doubt it, but there is a possibility if you guys look at it from that perspective.
Well, to me, it seems a lot like an insurance policy. So again, if people want to call it a freak accident, that's fine, whatever. The fact of the matter is Teddy Bridgewater's knee exploded like a bomb on a non-contact play, and it was so gruesome that his teammates had to look away to stop from vomiting. Okay, it was terrible. It was like that's why it was such a success story.
Yeah, they described the doctor. The doctor that operated on his leg described him having as a toothpick of a situation, or like a toothpick of a knee.
So I don't blame them. So in my mind, I don't mind the signing. I mean, listen, does anyone trust Will Greer to take over for the team next year and be a legitimate starter? No. I mean, maybe he takes another step forward. I normally don't judge rookie quarterbacks on their first weapons or on their first year in the NFL. But even still, man, like there was nothing that we saw good from Will Greer last year. So I don't mind the signing at all. Especially since Matt Rule does already have a history with him. They know what's they have a rapport with one another. I mean, but if I'm a betting man right now, I would think that David Tepper or Marty Hurney have long-term plans for none of them. I think we're trying to get Trevor Lawrence on this football team. And I'm not going to hide my bias, dude. That's what I want. If people want to fucking come at me, you're goddamn right. I'm a Clemson fan. That's who I am. And if Cam Newton is not going to quarterback this team, I want it to be Trevor Lawrence. Now, there's also no guarantee that no matter what you do, that you would even be able to get Trevor Lawrence. The Dolphins did everything possible to get the number 1 pick this year, and they still couldn't do it. So, I mean, there are no guarantees in this. And I think my concern is that we're a 5 or 6 win football team, and we're just out of the range to get the player that we want. So,
can I ask, CK, when you were talking about that just a minute ago, you were talking about the top picks and how they're the possibility of a quarterback dropping to us, and you said Love or Herbert. So are you considering Love a top 10, maybe 5 pick?
Because I think he's done a lot for himself.
Yeah,
to be in the conversation.
If we're throwing him in there, then you've got Love, Tua, Burrow, and Herbert.
One of them is going to be available. One of them are going to be available.
One of them will be available at number 7. So they're not going to have 4 quarterbacks go before number 7. It's not. But
I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that out of all of the quarterbacks on the board, one of those 4 that we just talked about, that you just mentioned, are not going to be somebody that they want. So it's just a matter of who's taken before, and if both Herbert and Love are both on the board at 7. I mean, I'm not going to be happy about it, but I could fathom seeing them take one of those two guys. I just don't know which one.
I understand. Okay,
Cody would probably have a better opinion on that factor than I would, though.
Well, I mean, it depends. Every year, I try and judge quarterbacks in a vacuum. Like I'm imagining if I'm having to draft a quarterback, would I be willing to bet on a few of those guys? And I know everybody loves to shit on Justin Herbert because you're not one of the cool kids unless you think Justin Herbert sucks dick. Okay, but let me tell you, that's a stupid opinion. Justin Herbert has a lot of potential to be a very good quarterback, and it's not what I'm endorsing. It's not what I'm saying I want. I just told you what I want. I want Trevor Lawrence to be the next quarterback for the Panthers, but I would absolutely endorse Tua Tagovailoa to be the quarterback, and I would absolutely endorse Justin Herbert to be the quarterback. Now, Jordan Love is a whole nother case because he might have every bit the physical gifts of, he might have the best physical traits of combined of every quarterback in the class, but he did not have a good senior season. But we have this ace in the hole named Joe Brady, though. I mean, people forget that Joe Burrow was probably not even going to be a 5th-round pick.
Yes.
Before this last season, and I've been saying this for years. It does wonders when you put a quarterback into a system that they're able to thrive in, and you give them easy throws. Jordan Love also lost a ton of talent at Utah, a ton of receivers, a ton of coaching turnaround. There's a lot of context. Like that's what drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, that guy sucks. He didn't throw for 300 yards, or they lost, or he didn't do this." Well, are you looking at the context of what happened in that game during that season, or are you just saying dumb shit just to hear yourself talk? It's like there's more that goes into this. Now, I can't give a better stamp on Love than I can Herbert, because I feel like Herbert is a quarterback that you would be able to bet on long term, provided the right system. But people are giving Love that Patrick Mahomes comparison just from the big arm, the ability to throw off platform. He's also a bit of a pothead, if I do remember that happening. He got suspended.
The players fought for that. It's okay.
Yeah,
they fought for that specifically in the CBA.
I don't give a damn what he does in his spare time. I'm just that is something that did happen.
Yeah,
all right, Bill Mack could
have got more money, but
Bill Mack in the chat room said you signed Bridgewater for $23 million for 3 years to draft a QB at 7. Get real. Well, if Tua does drops in your lap, you got to consider it. But yeah, I do think the signing of Teddy Bridgewater doesn't paint us. We were in a situation where you almost had to do it.
You signed Kyle Allen. I mean, and yes, it wasn't as massive.
Cam was right at 20.
And
20 already.
Yeah, and we also got to remember we had this conversation last week that $23 million is not good starting quarterback money. If you believed in Teddy Bridgewater as the answer moving forward, that number would be closer to the 30 mark, right? Let's be honest. Yeah. And there's not many people that are looking at Bridgewater as the answer. And I think that it is a possibility that Bridgewater is trade bait. If it got to that point, some people have talked about it. I don't think it's the reality. I don't think we're drafting a quarterback at 7. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if the scenario pulls up to where there is a guy that they like and they pull the trigger on as seen as the future of the franchise. There is one point I also want to make is Will Grier was never given a system that I feel like was conducive for what he was able to provide. And Joe Brady didn't have a great, or Joe Burrow didn't have a great, I guess, junior year. And then his senior year blew it out of the water, right? So who's to say that Joe Brady can't provide the same opportunity for somebody like Will Grier? I'm not saying Will Grier's the answer either, but I think that they're going to wait till training camp and then they're going to see what they have. And I wouldn't be surprised if Teddy Bridgewater isn't the starting quarterback come week 1.
But y'all, what if that's the plan right there that we don't even know about? Is that they're going to they sign these guys, Bridgewater and this new guy, PJ, whatever, to deals for trade bait. And the real plan is he's going to develop Will Greer. And Will Greer is going to be the future of the Carolina Panthers. How crazy
Put
is
that helmet back
that?
on. Put that helmet back on.
Yeah, right.
As we wait for our guest to come in, Scott Mason, Play Like a Jet, is trying to get in the chat right now. I am going to go ahead and power through with one more call. Number's 252-228-5098.
Panthers podcast.
What's up, G?
It's officially over, man.
What's up, G?
Cam Newton's not on the team no more, man. I just wish him the best of luck. I wish him nothing but success, man. This one hurts, man. It really does. But Luke Kuechly leaving, that hurt me too, you know what I'm saying? But with Cam, damn, this shit hurts, man. All I gotta say is, hey, I wish him nothing but the best. And Teddy Bridgewater, you heard it first right here. He's gonna surprise a lot of people. I'm still a Panthers fan. Till the casket drops. To the day I die, I'm going to ride for the damn Panthers, man. Because I survived the Chris Winkie era, the Jimmy Clausen era, the Kerry Collins era, the Steve Berlin era, you know, the Tony Pike era, you know, the Kyle Allen era, the Will Greer era. You know, I was here
Tony
from
Pike.
the start, and I'm going to be here till I'm an old man. So, I'm going to have to get me a Teddy Bridgewater jersey. I will get one because I'm going to support that dude. I'm going to support Teddy Bridgewater 100%. And David Tepper and Matt Rule, I trust the process. A lot of people don't, but I do. I just wish it would have ended a little bit better, but I trust them damn dudes. Keep pounding.
Gee, I'd hold off on that Bridgewater jersey, dude. I would wait until you see at least 2 or 3 games of him in that jersey and actually playing and doing well for us, because I'm going to be flat out real with you. If he doesn't come out in the first 8 games and he's just sucking, PJ Walker is going to get an opportunity. I'm just saying the Panthers fans are going to hate Bridgewater if he doesn't come out immediately and start contributing, as especially if we let go of Cam in favor of Bridgewater for a contract that's more expensive than Cam's was. If he doesn't come out and actually start balling, you're gonna regret a decision to buy his jersey.
And one of the things I'm still so curious about, and we just don't know a lot about this yet, is, you know, obviously we were so dependent on Christian McCaffrey last year. I mean, Kyle Allen was a one-read quarterback. I mean, that you know, I'm not taking anything away from DJ Moore, but we've said it before. When DJ Moore is his first read, and that's who Kyle Allen's always going to. Well, yeah, of course, DJ was able to rack up 1,000 yards. That's not taking anything away from him, because I do think that DJ did take a pretty big step from his rookie to sophomore season. I was hard on him, but just, you know, knowing that what I said earlier, Teddy Bridgewater is not really a down the field thrower. I'm not going to speak a lot about the what's the XFL guy's name? I keep on forgetting.
PJ Walker.
PJ, yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I haven't looked at enough of him yet, so I can't really give a solid opinion on him yet. I do know that he's mobile and he's made some pretty crazy throws in the XFL, but I mean, I just, you know, I know that Joe Brady's offense at LSU was so pass happy that I don't know. You know, it really is going to be interesting to me to see what kind of dynamic that we end up striking for between the run game and the pass game. Because you have this proven commodity who's still young, still in the prime of his career, but at the same time, now you've signed Robbie Anderson, which we haven't talked about yet. You know, we've done these things to try and open up the passing attack, and you know, I don't know what that's going to look like just yet. But I'm assuming that, I mean, listen, I'm not going to knock Teddy Bridgewater. I do think he's a good quarterback. I'm just, you know, Tony, when you came over to my house for that first game of the season, I'll never forget what you said to me. I'm like, what's going to happen today, man? And you're like, well, Cam Newton's on the field, so I trust that we're going to be okay. Well, now Cam Newton's not on the field, and now we have to have trust in, let's face it, two unproven commodities. Because it doesn't matter what you think about Teddy Bridgewater. He's never had an amazing season anywhere. He's been okay. He's never been like I would say he's better than Tyrod Taylor. But
that was what I was going to say too. Yep.
Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater has never lit the NFL on fire. So right now, we just don't know, even in spite of Teddy Bridgewater and PJ, we just don't know what our passing attack is going to be like and how potent it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, you know the reason why PJ Walker got signed, right?
Basically, Matt Rule.
Baylor, Temple,
he's a Temple guy. Yeah, he's a Temple guy.
Well, and he was also the best quarterback in the XFL.
Right.
Like he was their little Patrick Mahomes. I do want to. We need to contradict something about Teddy Bridgewater and his stats. His yards per attempt for his career are 7.2. Like on average, every year he's thrown above 7 yards an attempt. Tyrod Taylor, interestingly, had a number higher than Drew Brees in 2015. He was 8 yards per attempt in that Buffalo offense. But Cam Newton in his best years wavered around the same downfield mark that Teddy Bridgewater had. Give me a guy that you think is a downfield thrower. I'll pull up his stats.
You mean a starting court downfield thrower? Ryan
like who
is a downfield thrower.
Okay.
Jameis Winston is a downfield thrower.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes.
Aaron Rodgers is a downfield thrower.
I think you might be surprised about his air yards. Patrick Mahomes, at least.
Matthew Stafford, maybe.
Yeah, Matt Stafford.
All right,
Matt
so
Ryan. I'll give you Matt Ryan.
Prior to 2018, Fitzpatrick only had more than 7 yards an attempt 1 year, and it was 7 right on the 2 years, 7 and 8.
Okay.
2013. Now, when he was in Tampa, his average was 9.6, which is like better than Drew Brees ever had in any season, which is crazy. Lovely. I'll look up. What'd you say, Fitzpatrick? Not Fitzpatrick. Who?
Winston, Rodgers, Mahomes. Yeah.
I would say
pick somebody.
Average.
CK.
Let's just go Patrick Mahomes. Let's look at his. Because everybody would probably say that.
I feel like I can see the top of Scott's head.
You can.
Oh, there. Okay, I thought you left. I was like, all right, well, good. We've got.
I was ducking down so nobody would see me.
Oh,
it would be a surprise.
You really were sitting tight. 8.3 and 8.6 for his career. So Mahomes does get the ball downfield. All right, today we've got Scott Mason, Play Like a Jet, at Play Like a Jet 1 to help us understand. He's our resident Jets fan. And as we're falling to the bottom, I don't know if you guys are climbing up. But, hey, we're crabs in a bucket pulling each other down. The Panthers, we got you on the show because the Panthers today signed Robbie Anderson to a 2-year deal. He is worth his weight in owl feathers. He has joined the Carolina Temple Owls right now. What do we got with Robbie Anderson?
From what I understand, by the way, this was in the works for a while. I was just talking to Manish Mehta from the Daily News, who comes on my podcast a lot. And what he said is that Matt Rule has wanted Robbie Anderson more or less from the minute he took the job with the Panthers, which makes a lot of sense because they're remaking that offense. What you need to know about Robbie Anderson is everyone knows he's fast, but I think he's a little better as a route runner than people give him credit for. He's really quick in and out of breaks. He's not a guy that's a really polished route runner. Like, we're not talking about somebody like Antonio Brown or something like that. But what he can do is get in and out of breaks quickly. He can get downfield, and he can really fly. He has had issues in terms of getting contested passes and things like that, but he started to improve in that area down the stretch. He's tall, he's lanky, but again, he's a guy that if he gets out into space, watch out. Now, the one guy that really has been able to clamp down on him the last couple of years more than anybody else has been Stephon Gilmore, which is not a surprise because Stephon Gilmore has done that to everybody. But Gilmore is basically just not allowed him to do a damn thing. But I think he'll be really good in the Carolina offense if they can improve that offensive line for Teddy Bridgewater, because if they can give Bridgewater time to throw. Now, you guys were just talking about how he's not known as a downfield thrower, and he's not. He's not typically a guy who's going to throw down the field a lot, but he doesn't even necessarily have to throw bombs. If he can get the Robbie Anderson on a 10 or 15-yard route, he can just take it the rest of the way. He's not a guy that's going to get yak, by the way. Like, he's not breaking tackles or anything like that, but he'll get open.
Because he's a skinny mini. Yeah, we got DJ Moore for that.
Yeah, so Scott, let me kind of ask you this: what do you think would be the best receiver position for Robbie Anderson? I mean, are we going to see him in the slot, or is he basically gonna be on the outsides, just going up against whatever the best corner we're going against is?
He's an outside guy. I actually think he'll do well with DJ Moore on the other side of him. I don't know who's playing the slot in Carolina or if they're looking to do something there, but Robbie's definitely not a slot guy. Yeah, he's going to be an outside target. Like I said, he'll get in and out of breaks quickly, and he can fly downfield. So he'll get open. The one thing that I'll say is Sam Darnold, if you go back and watch Michael Nania, who does a lot of work with Jet Stats and broke down every single game and every play, actually, that Sam Darnold was a part of in his 26 starts. And we did an 8-part series on my podcast. One thing that you notice when you go through the film is you see Robbie Anderson open downfield a lot. The problem was Darnold couldn't get him the ball because the offensive line was so bad that they weren't giving him the opportunity to be able to throw downfield. But if you go back and you look at the film, you'll see Robbie open a lot downfield. If Carolina can find a way to upgrade that line, and listen, I don't want them to take an offensive tackle in the top 10 because as a Jets fan, I want as many of those guys available as possible when the Jets come up to 11, if any of them are available at all. But if Carolina is smart, and I think that Matt Rule is, they will take an offensive tackle early in the draft and really build that lineup, because if you can give Teddy Bridgewater some time to throw, now that he's got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, that could be an interesting offense, especially with Christian McCaffrey. You all know what he can do.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to Robbie Anderson, from what I saw, is that if you look at his career, he's played 4 years in the league. He's been a starter 2 out of those years. I guess was he hurt in 2018?
So Robbie Anderson signed as an undrafted free agent in 2017, I believe. And then from there, or actually was it 2016? Yeah, it was 2016. Yeah, he worked his way into a bigger role in 2017. And then in 2018, he had a couple of missed games. This year, he was healthy the whole season. He had some ups and downs. In fact, there were points where Jets fans really were souring on him middle of the season, especially because, like I said, one thing that was a constant criticism of him was the inability to get contested catches. So to fight in traffic or to come back for balls. He improved on that down the stretch of the season. But what you're getting is a guy that isn't necessarily a finished product. And I think that's important to understand because, Tony, when you talk about his production, if you just look at his production without watching the tape,
it's pretty good. The numbers aren't bad, though. I mean, the idea of we haven't had receivers that consistently put up 700. I mean, he's putting up 700 yards a season, no matter what it looks like.
All right.
Which is fine, but I think the thing with him is that if you get him in the right system and you protect the quarterback, he could be 1,000-yard receiver like DJ Moore was last year. So it could be an interesting tandem. But yeah, I mean, the thing about him is, like I said, he'll get open downfield a lot. It's just a matter of whether or not you can get him the ball. And he hasn't had that breakout season yet. But I think part of it is, though, also he hasn't had consistent quarterback play. You got to remember, in 2017, he was on pace to easily crack 1,000 yards, and then Josh McCown got hurt, and the rest of the season was played by Bryce Petty, who was absolutely horrendous. So Anderson finished short of the 1,000 yards. And then in 2018, You had a rookie Sam Darnold who struggled a little, and also he got hurt and missed a couple of games. Then this past year, obviously, Darnold had the mono, and then you had Luke Falk in there for a couple of games. So there were a lot of variables there that held him back. But I think Matt Rule, if anybody, would know exactly what to do with him. In fact, it's funny. I didn't have any information on this back in January, but I said the two teams that just made sense to me just off the top of my head thinking out loud were Philly because he went to Temple and because I know the Eagles had sniffed around and they needed a wide receiver, and the Panthers because of his connection to his old college coach, Matt Rule. So I think Matt Rule probably looked at it and saw what Robbie Anderson has started to become and believes that he can turn him into something even greater. And I think he probably can.
Yeah, that's actually something that when Matt Rule was hired, we tried to learn a little bit about him. And one of the things that he really values is athleticism. And if the Panthers offense is nothing but a wet dream for Matt Rule, with not only Christian McCaffrey and his athleticism, you have Curtis Samuel, who is a very fast wide receiver. And now you add Robbie Anderson to that mix. A lot of people would say, well, you need more than just speed. Well, now guess what? DJ Moore has the yards after the catch. I think it wouldn't be surprising if DJ Moore moves to the slot and maybe provides more of what a Michael Thomas did for the Saints. And, you know, Michael Thomas, if you look at his average air yards are not good. Like, he is not a downfield threat as much as some of the other receivers on that New Orleans Saints offense.
He's a volume guy.
So I think the addition of Robbie Anderson is not only somebody who is familiar with, you know, Matt Rule and the type of coach that he is, but I think it also is exactly what Matt Rule wants in that type of receiver, which is athleticism over talent. And I'm not going to say Robbie Anderson isn't talented, but you know, if there's one thing you would say is it's his speed that's got, you know, Robbie Anderson as being a now a high paid wide receiver.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you too, with Matt Rule and Tony, I know I've talked to you about this. When the Jets were looking for a head coach last year and they ended up hiring Adam Gase, who on a list of 8 potential choices was 9th on my list. Matt Rule was right at the top, along with Todd Monken, who I think is going to be the offensive coordinator at Georgia this year. But the thing I loved about Rule was everywhere he went, he built a program. And when he got there, it was not in a good situation. When he left, it was 1,000 times better than what he found. And this is a guy that has a little bit of NFL experience. He was an assistant offensive line coach. But I talked to a couple of people that covered him both at Temple and at Baylor. And this is a guy who really gets the players to buy into what he's selling and who really knows how to build successful programs and to put the right people in place, to put the right assistant coaches, which we've already seen with some of the guys that he's hired in Carolina, and to do things his way. And part of the reason why he didn't get hired as the Jets head coach is because he wanted to pick his own staff, and they told him that they didn't want to let him go with an inexperienced offensive coordinator. And so he was like, well, either I do this my way or I don't do it at all. So now he goes to Carolina. It seems like he's got the full faith of ownership there with Tepper, and he's going to do this his way. So as much as I'm sure it's a bittersweet pill to see Cam Newton leave, this is more along the lines of what Matt Rule's vision is going to be. And so you've got a new quarterback, you've got a new receiver. They can do some things on the offensive line in the draft, but I think they're in the process of really doing some interesting things in Carolina. And I'll tell you this, not that I haven't been wrong before, but just from all the stuff that I looked into when I was researching Matt Rule, I think you guys got a great coach. You guys should be really happy. And I think that you now have a really good receiver to go along with DJ Moore. And for the price too, 2 years, $20 million, that is really not much for a guy who just seems to be coming into his own now.
Hey, Bad Daddy, would you like to respond to that?
No, I won't get into that right now, but I do have one question for you, Scott, about Robbie Anderson. I've always liked Robbie Anderson. He's a guy, he's on my radar. I know his name, so you know, if I feel like I know the guy's name, then he's a decent NFL player. I do think the signing of him was good there, but I want to ask, you were talking about him not being so polished in his route running necessarily, but you know, he's more of a threat speed receiver. Can he play the X, Y, and Z? Is he a guy that I can put anywhere on the field and I can count on him to to
too skinny,
play at
man.
a par level. Yeah, but basically, I'm asking you: do you think that maybe he could ever have a higher ceiling than DJ Moore, or do you think he's always going? Do you think he's a number 2 guy? Do you think he's a number 1 or number 2 guy? You know,
I mean, I never get stuck on labels like that. I've always just felt get good players out there, and it doesn't matter whether you label them a 1 or a 2. I guess if you really want to break it down that way, I would say he's probably never going to be a number 1 receiver in terms of. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite player, but I think
I think the question
is a good one.
Yeah, I think the question would more or less be, do the other teams see him as a number 1 wide receiver, or are they putting their number 2 guy on him? And it sounds like for the most part, because I think he's been one of the best receivers for the Jets over the past couple of years, that he's been drawing the number 1 receiver attention, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm going to keep on hearkening on Joe Brady, our offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what LSU did last year, I mean, they had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I mean, they had a bunch of guys that they could go and distribute the ball to. And when you look at, I kind of agree with Scott. I kind of think that it's wrong to kind of say, well, he's a 1, he's a 2. I think really it's all about having a versatility of options. And that's what Carolina has now. When you add Curtis Samuel, who most Panther fans believe that we have not seen the best of Curtis Samuel. As soon as he was drafted, he had a heart issue. And then Cam Newton had all these injuries that prevented him from being people forget that Curtis Samuel ran a 4.31 at the combine. Like, the dude can fly. So I think that this Robbie Anderson piece is like a perfect complement. And when you add on Christian McCaffrey, who's such a versatile pass catcher in and of himself, it's not necessarily of, okay, we have to have our number 1 corner on this particular receiver, because now we have so many options of who we're going to go to. I could see us running a lot of mesh plays, like what Lincoln Riley and what he does at Oklahoma. To me, this is just an options move where now it opens up our playbook even more than it had been previously.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is he's a weapon. He's a guy that can really blow the top off of the defense. And whether you want to classify him as a number 1 or a number 2, I mean, he's been the number 1 by default with the Jets last couple of years, just because there really wasn't anybody else that you would say was in the discussion to be the top threat at receiver. So he was the one that drew generally the best opposing defender. That may not be the case in Carolina, but either way, I think he's a great complement to DJ Moore. If anybody would know how to use him, it would be Matt Rule. So I think it's going to be a real interesting mixture now with that offense. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you should get used to this. I don't know if you're aware that his nickname was the Sun God when he was here in New York. So you guys should start that up in Carolina. I don't know if anybody's
Sun God. Yeah, he looks like the kid from Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice. That's what he one of the Wayans brothers, like a Wayans brother.
I could see that. Yeah, he definitely has the hair. Yeah, it all comes from, he used to tweet weird. Robbie has his own very distinct way of speaking, and he has really strange tweets sometimes. And one of them was something along the lines of that he loved it. He used to love it when he was a kid with his mom when the sun stayed out later, which doesn't really make any sense if you think about it, but it kind of got people joking on Twitter, and then everybody started calling him the Sun God. So that's what his nickname's been with Jets fans for the last couple of years, the Sun God. So I don't know if anybody's calling him that yet.
Listen, man, I'm all about weirdos, dude.
We'll keep that going. Let's move on. Let's move on from Robbie Anderson and ask you how you feeling about this Greg Van Roten signing.
I was going to ask you guys about that because from what I gather, he seems to be nothing more than a lateral move for the Jets. I mean, maybe he's a little bit better in pass protection than Brian Winters and probably a little bit worse, but he was a journeyman. He didn't even really start for the Panthers until he was, 29 years old. So our film guy took a look at him, Joe Blewett, and he wasn't overly impressed. He thought he was good enough to be a starting guard, but not anything to write home about. Is that more or less where you guys sit? Because you would have watched him on a game in, game out basis.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
exactly
he lived
what
and
I would
died by the
say.
Panthers. Yeah, he lived in. I mean, he definitely gives himself. I mean, he's an energetic guy. I mean, when Christian McCaffrey had one of the best games of the season, he was pumped about it, and he was just like super stoked about it. But as far as talent, I mean, just look how bad our offensive line was last year. I mean, if you're looking at it as a whole, I think he's going to have bad games. He had some good games. I don't think you're getting a bad player, but he's definitely not going to be the answer long term, especially with his age being what it is.
What'd y'all pay him?
I don't think the terms
More than we were going to.
Yeah, well, that's probably what. But I don't think the terms are out yet. The weird thing with the Jets offseason is they haven't paid anybody, and that's part of what everybody's frustrated with the Robbie Anderson thing. A lot of Jets fans are really upset about it. Which, by the way, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, you can tell a lot by what a team's fan base thinks of a guy leaving, and Robbie Anderson leaving. Jets fans are really upset about it. So for whatever that's worth, but I think that Joe Douglas, the general manager, has mostly been signing contracts that have been either 1-year deals or glorified 1-year deals that he can more or less get out of.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably what it is with Van Roten, because I think he got a 3-year deal. I don't think the terms are out there yet, but I would guess it's probably somewhere in the like $5 to $6 million a year range, with an ability to get out of it cap wise after like 1 year. But I can't say for sure.
Well,
We don't know if Greg Van Roten's was good last, or we don't really know. Well, the one thing we do know about Greg Van Roten is he was available when everybody else wasn't, and that was the only thing, is he actually started to stand out a little bit, not because he was good, but because everybody else was just pathetic around him. I felt like I think Joe Blewett got it right. I think he's a guard. You signed a guard. That's what you did. You just signed him, and you better hope you get something out of him, because I know you'll get more out of him than you got out of Khalil. That's for sure.
So Scott, one of the things that we said about the Panthers last year is that when it went bad for one, it went bad for everyone. I mean, we all thought, Trey Turner was a really good guard, and he's been to the Pro Bowl a bunch of times. But man, it's like as soon as our offense got off of a rhythm, and a lot of it was due to our quarterback having absolutely no pocket presence and awareness. But I mean, there were, the interior of our offensive line really helped out Christian McCaffrey a lot. So on some inside zone plays, I think you're probably going to be pretty happy with Greg Van Roten. My worry is pass protection. I just worry that once the blitz start coming, I don't really think that he's great at recognizing where incoming blitzes are coming from, and sometimes he'll miss assignments and not pick up the mic or whatever it is on the specific play. I kind of think you had it right when you said it's more of a lateral move. It's not really an upgrade over anybody per se. I think if I know you mentioned earlier you're interested in drafting O-line, and I do think if you put so he's probably going to play left guard. So if you draft a left tackle this year, I definitely think he'll benefit from having someone like an Andrew Thomas or a Mekhi Becton next to him. And I think that'll probably go a long way towards helping him. So that signing could yet become better. But as of right now, you have a fairly decent run blocker and someone who, in my opinion, is probably a little below average in pass protection.
Well, the way you got to kind of look at it, or the way I'm looking at it, is when we're talking about Robbie Anderson and Greg Van Roten, it almost seems like this could have been a trade. It almost seems like both teams did the same thing.
Yeah.
That they both made a lateral movement to a position they didn't necessarily need to upgrade, but they didn't downgrade it. Now they just got a different player playing there. You almost could have traded Robbie Anderson for Greg Van Roten straight up. what it sounds like. You're getting almost the same kind of player.
That is kind of
but-
worked out, I guess. It's
Yeah.
I didn't think of it
It's
that
crazy.
way.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you. We'll get you out of here. Thoughts on Brad Perryman?
It's funny because I've been calling him Brett Perriman by accident because you remember Brett Perriman, the receiver from the Detroit Lions back when it was Herman Moore and Brett Perriman and Barry Sanders. So I actually, on the podcast that I just taped with Manish Mehta, the two of us both did it a couple of times. We were like, damn it, Rashad Perriman. I
just called him Brad Perryman. I don't even know the damn's name either. Rashad Perryman.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really weird signing. I get why they did it because they had to sign somebody, and I know he's got speed, but he's a player that was massively disappointing with the Ravens. He missed his rookie year with an injury, came back in his second year, didn't do much. They cut him after 2 years. He wound up in Washington for a brief bit, and then he went and played for the Browns, didn't do much. This past year in Tampa, he didn't do anything until the last month of the season when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both injured, and so he got an opportunity. And, it's a very pass-happy offense down there with Arians. So he put up big numbers and basically cashed in on a month of performance. I'm not a big fan of it. I think the Jets downgraded significantly because even though Robbie Anderson isn't necessarily a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, he's still a really good receiver who had excellent chemistry with Darnold, and we knew what he could do. Perriman is a guy who had a couple of solid games and got paid. Like I said, I guess it's better than going into the season with nothing but Jamison Crowder, but they're going to have to go receiver probably at least twice, which thankfully it's a really good wide receiver draft, so that helps. But you're going to have to end up relying on rookies here. And even if Perriman does an okay job, he's only on a 1-year deal. So it seems like the entire team, by the way, Tony, is on a 1-year deal at this point. I was joking to somebody earlier, but it's 100% true. After this year, the only two long-term commitments that Joe Douglas is really going to have are going to be Sam Darnold and Quinnen Williams, and everybody else is basically just going to have a year left on their contract, or in the case of some guys that are signed for longer, a year left where they wouldn't be able to get out of it. So it's really strange what the Jets are doing this
You're trying to
offseason.
be the Bills, man. You're trying to be the Bills. The Bills did this 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, it feels like. So you want to, and I think the Panthers are doing something very similar, and that is let's not get locked in until we know what those pillars that we're going to build on are as we're installing all this. Perryman has never had over 645 yards. That was last year that he did that. Perryman, he reminds me of Terrell Pryor a little bit, like that kind of player. And another one is I would say is that Brashad, he's like in the category for Kevin White for me.
Oh boy,
Perryman. It's like God. It's like, man, you just wish these guys could actually be whatever they told us they were going to be. The Ravens reached on him too far. All right, Scott, tell us about your podcast and how they can find your work.
Well, guys, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's always fun talking with you. So anytime you want me to come back, you just let me know. Right now, we are doing daily podcasts. You can find it on iTunes or turnonthejets.com. It's called Play Like a Jet. 7 days a week, we're doing shows. We're focusing right now on free agency. We're finishing that up this week. And then next week, we're really going to get draft heavy. So even if you're a Panthers fan and you're not necessarily looking for Jets-centric content, we're going to be having a lot of draft guys on to talk about the various different top players in the draft. And I think there's probably a lot of intersection between who the Panthers might be interested in, who the Jets might be interested in. We're going to talk a lot about these offensive tackles. And like I said, I think there's a good chance the Panthers will take one of them. So if you're a Panthers fan, but you love draft stuff, you don't necessarily have to be a Jets fan to like what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. So if you want to give us a listen, we're on iTunes, all the other platforms. Play Like a Jet, turnonthejets.com. Tony, guys, thanks so much again for having me on. Really appreciate it. Always love hanging out with you guys.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Hey, it's been a blast.
Thanks, Scott.
Tony, we're
All
going to have
right.
him on for the draft, right? Because he provided the best moment of the night last year.
He did. And yes, we are. Yes, we are. Hey, and we'll all get to pick close together. All right,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
All right, let's go. Thanks a lot, Scott. We'll catch up with you. Be sure to follow his work. And guys, you know what? We're dying for sports talk. So go check out the podcast, even if it's not our team. Get a look around the league. Peek outside instead of just looking in the mirror like we do all day long. That's why we went and got Scott to come in and talk about Robbie Anderson. Just briefly, guys, thoughts on what he had to say about Robbie Anderson. To me, I don't dislike this move at all. You know, we would have been happy to get Robbie Anderson last year. So if we didn't know anything about what was going on, this is like the best free agent receiver that was out there. 1. 2, there's a familiarity with Matt Rule. 3, you have the questions that some people said was, is he, did he quit on the team? I think J-Dub said that. Is that, you have no concerns right now about how him and the head coach and their belief in each other. You've heard him speak glowingly. And you know what? We needed somebody. We needed somebody that wasn't just a bum either. Because we don't have enough. We got a lot of holes here. You're not going to get anybody in the draft that's going to be worth a damn, that's going to contribute. Look at how long it's taken a second rounder like Curtis Samuel, a first rounder like DJ Moore ultimately. Not saying they're taking too long, but you're not going to get a contributor from day one in the draft that's going to really be meaningful. You got depth and I think some upside.
Isaiah Simmons, I don't know. I can make a couple arguments.
A wide receiver. A wide receiver.
Yeah,
no, you're not.
Okay.
We're not picking him, and we're not picking
even there.
AJ Brown, DK Metcalf.
But we're not using our first round pick on a wide receiver. So is that there are going to be first round people that could contribute, but the odds are, if you're picked in the second or on the second day or later, that you're going to be a rotational player at best your rookie year. That's just the odds of it.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, we picked Brian Burns at what last year?
16.
And his ass played 48 snaps.
Hey, that's the best special teamer in the NFL you're talking about.
Yeah.
Shit.
I think...
can we say this? Does anyone think that we're going to sign a more high profile player in this offseason than Robbie Anderson? Like, in my opinion, that's the name.
That's the name. Yeah, for sure. Well, I think, and what you're noticing,
we need a defensive player. That's for sure.
Well, what you're noticing right now is they have a mindset right now. They are front loading all of these contracts. Like we talked about there, it's either a matter of making sure that there's not going to be dead money involved if they have to cut them after this year or the year after that, or they're trying to create a scenario where they can actually build a team up from what they have now. And so if you're not having to pay your quarterback as much as you're having to pay him this year, next year, well, then that means that possibly their mindset is long-term, which I do like. I like the fact that we're not in this win now mode. It's like, let's go ahead and create a dynasty. Let's try to do something to create something that's going to go out beyond what we're currently doing. And so I think there's some positivity there. With the Robbie Anderson question, how do I feel about the signing after, having our guest on is, I'm excited to hear that he had great things to say about Robbie Anderson. I also am very happy to hear that there's a lot of Jets fans who are not happy with the fact that he's not a Jet anymore, which means that we're getting somebody who was valued. I am still afraid that we're going to have somebody we're not going to utilize correctly, and that he's going to end up being again, Russell Shepard, Jarius Wright type that's contributing but not actually living up to a contract.
I don't think you're going to worry about that. I don't think you'll have to worry about that, is because this guy has got upside. Those guys, their upside was just in their reliability. I mean, you know what? Look, do you remember that painful ass, that was camp, that would have been the 2016 training camp, Russell Shepard. I think we go and get him. It's either 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, 16.
And if he wasn't just the biggest fucking toast of the town, people were just like, hey, he looks so great. I mean, the Panthers media was doing it. Bill Voth was Black and Blue Review. Just, all of this. And, he had never done anything in the NFL. Like, he had been in the NFL. He had been on special teams, some stuff like that. But Robbie Anderson, we've seen him on the highlight reel. You've been drafted. People drafted him. If he has produced. And I think that,
right?
yeah, and I think that on top of that is what's great about it, too, is that Scott continued to emphasize more upside. So it's not just, it's not like, oh, this guy could be good and we haven't seen anything. He has been good. We've seen it with the potential of it being better than what we even saw. I like this a lot. I don't know. The one concern I have is that he continued to reference a catch, kind of contested catches. He's lean. He's a lean little lanky fella. I don't think that you have to have giant guys to play big, but I do think it's tough in the red zone when it's 3rd and 5 and the end zone is crowded. The little guys, I mean, they can get it done. It's just harder, I feel like.
Yeah, and all of our roster is little guys. Like,
we don't have a complement. There's no complement to it.
We do not have that big body jump ball receiver.
When you look at the teams,
the way, no, go ahead, CK.
I was saying, when you look at the teams that he had at Baylor and at Temple, did he have big body receivers? Because, I mean, from my understanding and from what we did our research on, he valued the athleticism more than he valued.
So there's a guy, which is very much in play for us in this year's draft, by the name of Denzel Mims. He's a receiver from Baylor. Coached him last year. He's 6'3".
Surprise.
6 foot. But I've seen the guy play. I've watched his film. The dude's a badass. I mean, he really is the kind of player that can go up and get the ball. And I think the fact that they've already established that connection with Baylor and Matt Rule, and I mean, Denzel Mims would be a much welcome asset to the team should we draft him. But overall, I'm not through the moon on any of this. Like, none of this changes what I feel the season's going to be. A receiver is not going to put us over the edge. You know, we've kind of been having this chat in the chat room about, DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, and have we ever had a top tier receiver outside of Steve Smith, and we really haven't, especially not while Cam Newton has been here, and especially if you look at 2015, other than taking the top off, we really didn't have a number one. So but not a real number one that like a DeAndre Hopkins or a Michael Thomas, where that on 3rd down, I'm throwing that dude the football and he's coming down with it.
We haven't had a number one even since Steve Smith and his.
You're gonna hate me for saying this, but go back and look at Kelvin Benjamin's rookie year. He had a better year than Julio Jones did.
Well, it was
Julio was hurt that year too.
Yeah, it was 1,000. He was barely over 1,000, and he had some incredible catches. But for the most part, he was a garbage receiver. Like, he did not run routes very well. He was very slow. He just happened to be very good at contested catches. And that's what got the highlight reel. Every time that he would make a catch, it was because he wasn't able to break out of a route and actually get open. It made it look like he was incredible because he's doing these contested catches.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, he's just not doing anything.
I got a stat for you, Stat Daddy.
By the way, before we go further, a wild T Money appears.
Oh, nice, good. Because he's joining the show after our guest, and he's here. Welcome to the show, T Money. How you doing, my man?
Welcome, my brother. I ain't gonna let you get off with that Kevin White dig though. Like, you didn't used to have the biggest heart on for him.
Gosh, I did. Yes, I did. That was my dream. You're right, and that's why I like the Perryman.
I don't know if he was on the show yet, then he might have just been in the comment section. But Tony used to have the biggest heart on for Kevin White.
I saw that man in those underwear, those big muscles, running fast. Boy, but he is what a bust he was. Here's a stat for you, Stat Daddy. Edgar Salamango Jr. tweeted this out. It's a retweet off Ian Hertz. He said 47 players have at least 10 deep ball targets this season, 20 yards down the field. The 7 who had the worst catchable target rate. So that means that the just ball was not there.
Thrown terribly, yeah.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Robbie Anderson. So the tweet is, we now have 3 of the 4 wide receivers with the worst catchable deep ball target rates last year. Teddy Bridgewater might not have many deep shots, but those receivers are going to be hungry to catch that deep ball. If it's anywhere close, they're going to be giving him a hug and a kiss. All right. Let's go to T-Money real quick. Your thoughts on the Robbie Anderson's signing or Cam Newton? What made you want to come on the C3 podcast tonight?
I mean, we've been doing a lot of talking on Twitter, so it was just, our fan base. You gotta love them, you gotta hate them. I just don't understand, I don't understand some people's thought process. I already seen today, we signed Robbie Anderson. Why don't we trade Curtis Samuel? Why we can't have weapons for once?
Right. That's a good point.
We get a new weapon today that y'all want to trade Curtis Samuel for what? I don't understand our fan base sometimes. But I like the Robbie Anderson signing. I definitely see why he chose it. And I felt like, I said this, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a good chance the longer he didn't get signed, because that means he probably wasn't getting the big offers that he might have thought he was going to get.
Yeah.
20 mil.
Yeah, and it's 2 years. You don't get locked up with him. We should be happy about this. I think that, and when you speak of the fan base, one of the things I've seen you commenting a lot on Twitter are reactions to the coaching staff about the personnel moves. Last week, we unraveled on this podcast that while Marty Herney looks like he's doing the worst job as a GM, is actually doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing right now. He is becoming the fall guy, the bad guy. He's digging the mass grave for the past, and he's just the last body to be dropped in it at some point. But really, the personnel moves outside of Cam Newton, and we can't really. How much are Rule's fingerprints on this? Is my question to you, T-Money.
I think they're heavy on it. I think he's making all the personnel decisions. I don't think.
Thank you. Yes,
I don't think
agree.
Kearney is there. Besides, at the point that we got Matt Rule, you might not have wanted to fire your whole scouting department right now. So that's why you wouldn't let Marty Herney go right now. You would let him finish this draft that he's already been scouting for a year, and then knock him out the door after the draft.
But that's what's so confusing to me. Why not do this shit a year ago? We're undergoing this entire process of basically rebuilding the Panthers from the ground up. We've got brand new people in the front office. We have guys that used to be doing soccer over in England. I mean, we're building everything brand new. And it seems like I hear this all the time from everyone. Oh, Marty Herney is just going to be here till the end of the draft and he's gone. Well, why even do that? Why is he still there? Because it seems to me like we have a general manager who is trying to save his job and trying to put together a good draft, a decent enough free agency, so that way he either retains his job with the Panthers or gets a job doing this somewhere else. Yeah. And yet at the same time, Panther fans are still divided on what kind of team we're going to be next year. Is this a competitive roster based on all the signings that we've just made? Or are we tanking for Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields? It feels like we're not closer to either one of those answers than we are before. And Marty Herney just muddies these waters even further.
Yeah. Well, Cody, I think we're way closer to tanking than we are to having a competitive team. And going back to what T-Money and Tony were saying, I think that the fingerprints are all over this one with Matt Rule. I mean, look back to what Scott said when we were just talking to him. Was he talking about Matt Rule and going to New England and going to the Jets? And he said that part of the reason he didn't want to go there was because he wanted to hire his own staff and wanted to have his own control. Okay? When Matt Rule came here, he said the reason Joe Brady is there is because he wanted him there. Matt Rule is in control of what's going on. And what T Money and Tony were saying, Hurney is the fall guy. That's why he's not gone right now. He's the fall guy for these two guys who have openly lied to us about a lot of stuff to not look bad whenever things go bad with the draft this year. If they go bad with the draft this year. But I promise you they'll take the credit if they go well.
I mean, with that, though, we already as a fan base are already – a lot of people have been doing the most, saying they're not Panthers fans, this, that, and the other. They've been doing that, and that's with Marty Hurney. Imagine if we had a new GM that tried to do that. Some of these fans would have literally been trying to kill whoever it was.
Right.
And you don't want the new GM to start off with that taste in the fan base mouth. I think that's why Marty Hurney breaking the news about Cam Newton, breaking the news about Trey Turner, breaking the news about Greg Olson, right? Oh, breaking the news about Ron Rivera. Yeah, is that like, hey,
he hired all of them.
Yeah. And when you're gone, all of that's gone. So I think he's gone after this year. I don't know if they retain him. Maybe they keep him around because they like him. You know, that's what Marty Hurney. Obviously, he's like a cool dude to hang out with. Everybody just loves Marty Hurney.
Cody's question was, why not do this last year? Well, Cody, I'll answer that. Last year, I think we were all excited about what Marty Hurney did in the offseason. I mean, we saw the signings that he made. He was able to re-sign Darrell Williams, who we thought was actually going to be able to contribute. Little did we know he was a one-year wonder. And then we had Gerald McCoy, Bruce Irving, all of these people that decided to come here and play that. I mean, even, you know, our Matt Paradis. I mean, there were just so many people that we felt like he did so much in the offseason that we thought we weren't going to be able to do because we had a horrible cap situation last year.
Okay, I understand that. But then why does the benefit of the doubt continue to get extended to him when it didn't to others who took the fall? So, for example, like if we all pretty much agree that we had a good roster going into last year, we had a good offense, a good defense. All of it hinged on Cam Newton. If Cam Newton's injury and him going down was enough to fire Ron Rivera, for us to cut Eric Reed, for us to get rid of Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy and all of these people, well, then why does that not also extend to Marty Hurney?
I think it will.
Listen, this is my honest thing. I have no real faith in Marty Hurney. Like, I just don't. Like, I mean, he drafted Cam Newton and he drafted Luke, yes. But what I'm saying is when the man left Carolina, no one was knocking on his door for him to come and be a general manager or an assistant GM or do anything like that anywhere else. It was Jerry Richardson reaching back into his pocket for his old pal. And it just doesn't make sense to me why there's this one straggler left over from this previous regime that frankly feels like it doesn't belong anymore. You can't tell me.
We'll do all that over Marty Hurney, but why do we not realize as a fan base that besides Washington and Buffalo, hardly anybody ever wants any of our players?
Nobody.
It's always
they want all of them.
Colts took punches.
It's always
the Jets too, and the Jets. The Jets love our players.
Just leave the team and it's just that guy that like, oh, everybody in the league wants. Cam will be that guy, maybe. I mean, for a couple teams, but most of our players, if they either go unsigned or they go somewhere where one of our old coaches is at, it's not none of our players. Like when people was getting mad, oh, Colin Jones is asking for a release. Where's he gonna go? What is he gonna do?
I'm waiting for it.
Like I just don't understand it. Like our fan base, it's a lot of players that we let go that we never see them again. Even I mean, look at the whole. Besides Ted Ginn, who off the Super Bowl team in the receiving corps is in the league?
I don't know. Let's get into some more cat calls as we keep going. And see what these guys got to say. The number's 252-228-5098. Your thoughts on Matt Rule, Cam Newton, the direction of this team, how bad it is, how great it's going to be.
What's going on, C3 Nation? This is a first time caller, but I was listening to y'all for a while. This is
Nice,
Jamie.
thank you.
What's up, Jamie?
Yeah, man, this whole Cam thing is really sick. This whole Cam thing is really sickening. The organization shitted on him. I hate it. You know, I understand about letting him go, but they could have done a better job with this. They really could have done a better job. They were shitting on him even when Kyle Allen was doing his 5-0 run, and they never really calmed the narrative when all the media going crazy over it. They never calmed that situation down. And I feel like they did him wrong then. I feel like the whole organization shitted on him. I mean, he didn't give this guy no weapons, no protection. He carried the team on his back. You know, this whole thing is crap. I ain't care what nobody say. These Cam haters, I don't care about them. You know, I think everybody has benefited from how great Cam was to this organization, to the Carolinas. You know, he was the biggest superstar this area ever had in pro sports.
That's the truth.
Bigger than Larry Johnson,
Don't
bigger
tell
than
me,
Lonzo
yeah.
Mourning.
Yep.
Even bigger than Steve Smith. Steve Smith probably be the greatest Panther, but Cam Newton was the biggest superstar Carolinas have ever had. All right, man, y'all hold it down.
Great call.
Yeah, great first call, Jamie. Thanks.
100%.
Thanks for your input. And when it does come to Cam Newton.
I mean, I know y'all want to give the front office credit for letting Cam go right now and before the draft. Maybe I'm just a butt, or maybe I'm just super team oriented. I don't really care about Cam Newton's feelings. I would have kept him all the way to the preseason, I would have waited on somebody to get hurt and then traded him. He would have just been sitting there.
I agree. I don't know why we obviously didn't care about his feelings because we cut him and he's getting healthy. Right? So I am with you. I don't know how we didn't get anything out of it. And I do think it's because we played our cards wrong from the very beginning.
Yep.
And that's all we've done. And that's another thing. When this Marty Herney get his blame in that too.
We still could have finessed that situation. I would have told, because we already know who's probably gonna look at Cam right now. The Chargers, even though they lied and said, "Oh, we're good with Tyrod Taylor." I would have played the Chargers, the Redskins, and the Patriots against each other. I would have been lying all of them. Hey, Bill Belichick just asked me today, could Cam pass a physical? You know, if you want him, you better go ahead and call it. Or even, I would say...
Well, that's still an option. New England. I mean, still an option.
Well, not for us to get anything.
Well, you're right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, we dropped cut him. Sorry. I apologize. Yeah, you're right.
Even though they said they wanted to move on for Cam, first of all, I think they did that because I don't think they really expected to get Teddy. I think they really worked to go along with it.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's some questions about that because the Joe Brady connection makes it feel like there was some sort of a direction that they wanted to go. The idea that if you continue to say that Matt Rule's fingerprints are on this and that he's not just groveling to Tepper and everything, obviously he had some sort of idea too going in. Maybe not a firm enough idea, but something with Joe Brady and Teddy Bridgewater had to have been the deal sealer there. I just feel like. Now, when it comes to the Cam Newton thing, the one last point about the call, I do want to make this is, this is exactly what we should probably expect from the Carolina Panthers with Cam Newton. Is Cam Newton always made, it's like when you got a hot wife and you don't deserve a hot wife and you start getting used to having a hot wife. Like, we just got used to having Cam. Like, it was like, man, Cam can bail us out. Cam can do everything. Cam can do this. And we took it for granted a lot. We didn't give him weapons. And it was always too late. That's what it is. It was always too late. The decision to have surgery was always too late after months of rehab. The decision to get him an offensive line was years too late, and the best you do is Matt Khalil. And then last year with Little as a, it was always putting wide receivers around him. Too little, too late. And you know what? Is that we waited and we didn't get shit for Cam.
Yeah.
The number's 252-228-5098. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was gonna say, let me ask you, T-Money. I know you were talking about how you thought the best thing to do would have been to just hold on to him and wait until somebody needed a injury quarterback or wasn't desperate for a quarterback. And I get that from a business standpoint. But what pisses me off the most about this is a moral standpoint. And I get that in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't mean shit. I get that, okay? And I'm by no means a religious guy or anything like that, but I do believe in doing right by people. And even though I get what you're saying as far as business goes, how messed up is that, man, to do what they did to this guy, to string him along like they did? And I don't know how much he had to do with anything going on, because none of us know the backseat or the background or what's going on behind the scenes that's not being reported. We only know what we're being told. But based on what we're being told, can you really look at the organization and be happy with the organization based on the way they've handled the situation? Like, for me, it's more than just business. It's life, you know?
The best teams in the NFL are cutthroat like that. Look at New England. New England is cutthroat.
Then you know what it is? I would rather be a loser that is a good team with their people than a winner that is cutthroat. That's me personally.
You know
I guess
what?
what it is.
That sounds like something a loser would say.
So,
but you know what?
maybe I'm a loser. You know,
all these other coaches like Bill O'Brien and Matt Patricia, they're trying to implement the Patriot way in their own respective places, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Instead of trying to build their own thing, they're trying to rebuild the Patriots. Like, the fact of the matter is,
I'm not just saying the Patriots. Look at all the legends, the Hall of Famers that didn't fit. I seen Emmitt Smith in Arizona. I seen Joe Montana in Kansas City. We've seen legends upon legends not finish with the team.
No, right. But I don't think that it means that's the only way to do it, though. And my thing is this. Cam Newton deserves to play football in 2020. And, now...
The Panthers don't owe him that.
Look, let me put it this way. Cam Newton deserves to play more than Colin Kaepernick does, and people will fight for Colin Kaepernick to play.
My thing is this. It's not that the Panthers owe Cam Newton to play. It's been obvious that they've been wanting to move on from Cam Newton for a while. Like I said, I came to this realization earlier. But my thing is Cam Newton, if he's going to have
Nick
a shot,
Foles. How about this? Who should be in a football jersey on Sunday to start this season? Cam Newton or Nick Foles?
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton. Everybody's going to say Nick Foles unless you're a Panthers fan, because Nick Foles had a 4-game stretch that he won and won a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, but then they went to Jackson.
I'm just saying it's the way it is.
I just think I don't think that he deserves to play. I think he's good enough to be a starter on Sunday. So the idea that Cam Newton's not a starter anymore.
And no matter how long you had to hold him, get something for him.
That's right. I agree with that point. Let's go on to the next call. The number is 252-228-5098.
What's up, Panther Nation, Panther fam, C3 fam in the chat.
What's
your boy
up?
Josh from Mass.
What's up, Josh?
On what feels like the coldest, ugliest, stillest Tuesday in a long time.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe it's real. I can't believe it really happened, and not just the circumstances around it, but the fact that it was done so unceremoniously. The fact that,
is he gonna cry?
As things come out and we get to hear more and find out yesterday, Cam had a physical and he passed it with flying colors. Of course he did. And, to be told that it's about his health, to be told that it was about this and about that and whatever, man, it just comes down. It's just straight up. Like, Pepper should have just been straight up with us. It's like, I don't like Cam. He should have said it. instead of BSing the fan base about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
I can tolerate somebody telling me things I don't like. That's fine. I'm an adult, can deal with that. Most of us are adults. Most of us can deal with that. But what infuriates me is somebody just lying, just straight lying. Like, dude, I get it. You're a billionaire and, you know, everything's an investment and money, money, money. But you know what? Winning NFL teams and profitable franchises are about more than just winning. And money.
Exactly what I was
mean,
just
winning
saying.
helps, obviously.
Exactly what I was just saying. Like,
you got to have an emotional connection to the fan base. Otherwise,
thank you.
it's
Such
just
a perfect
not
time
going
for
to
the
be
call.
there. It's just not. Okay? Like, let me explain something about this whole New England Patriots dynasty that people don't understand. Because there is a lot of fans who just watch this team suck for decades. Go into a small stadium on the outskirts of nowhere in Massachusetts, because Gillette Stadium, Foxborough, Mass, is not in Boston. It's in the middle of nowhere. And the fans would religiously and tirelessly make the pilgrimage. And then when the success came, it vindicated that emotional connection. And I don't feel like we're going to get that with the Panthers for a long time now. Shit, I'm out of time.
Go ahead, Greg.
No, there's nothing else really I can say. That he is preaching exactly what I was saying, and I hate using the word preaching for what I'm saying, but that's exactly what it is. He's preaching for I mean, what I was just saying. There's more to an organization than just money and business decisions. It's a family, it's a community, it's a relationship, and you like. I'm sorry, but do you think teams like Green Bay that have been with their cities for so long make every decision based on business?
Yes.
Like, granted, no, there's no way. There's no way. Then why did they just sign Aaron Rodgers when he had 3 years left on his deal to another deal?
Because
the
he
fans wanted it to
will
happen. Because
beat your ass if you don't.
Say it. No, say it. Because he will make the team better emotionally and competitively. That's why.
Is Cam still the answer to that question in Carolina?
He would have been had we not mistreated him and cut him unrighteously.
I'm not banking.
How about T-Money? We want him to be that answer.
Yeah.
You can want something. That don't make it exist.
That's right.
But you also don't know that he wouldn't have been. You're making an assumption saying he wouldn't have been. Last time we saw Cam Newton healthy, he was an MVP candidate with a 6-2 record and a 71% completion percentage.
I love Cam.
Last time we saw him healthy.
And listen, I'm going to keep that same energy for everybody in here and everybody on the chat room. Now that Cam Newton's not on the team, now everybody that used to be defending him is that, oh, he's inaccurate. He was never an elite passer.
I'm not going to do that,
dude. No one's. I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. But to everyone who's saying that, dude, like Cam Newton, other than 1 year in 2015 and maybe 2013, he had 2 years of a good offensive line. Other than that, he was throwing to a bunch of fat-ass wide receivers that couldn't separate well, having to put the ball on a dime every single fucking time. And then when they finally did,
he was our Charlie Sheen, man.
And then when they finally did put weapons around him, that's when you started to have the injuries. That's when you started to have the foot problem. That's when you started to have the shoulder issue. I'm just saying for everybody.
I don't like. All right,
though we did fail him when he was here. Yes, every other quarterback had.
We failed him badly.
Offensive lines drafted even in the same year as him. Remember when Luck got taken? They took 2 tight ends that year. Yes, we failed him, but right now we did not owe him anything, especially with a new coaching staff.
We did. We had $19 million and 1 more year to play.
Well, he got it.
We signed an agreement on that with him.
Actually, he didn't get it. He didn't get it. He got cut.
Yeah. Here, who was there when that agreement?
Doesn't matter. He walked into that situation. He accepted those terms.
Well, you can release him. You can release him. We did what was in the confines of the rule. I think this reminds me of a couple of. There's 2 points I want to make on the heels of what you guys have said. Is one, is I do worry that this like moving on that is like it's just this has natural progression. The real question is this the right time or not to move on from Cam, right? And I want to be cautious. Like I don't want to be a prisoner of this one weird foot injury, because it's something that happens to all types of players. It's problematic, but like the recency bias. Well, I'm not ready to just say Cam Newton's injury prone, right? He's been
injuries.
The biggest,
but people are acting like he's broken, and I don't know if that's the case. And then the other point I had is that maybe this is good for Cam in one way, is he does have the opportunity to have like a Drew Brees type moment in his career where when he went to the Saints, joining in something fresh, shake off that. It's a narrative right now that Cam Newton's injury prone, because first of all, he wasn't for so long. This shoulder shit fucked him up. They didn't do it right the first time. It lingered.
We know that from every injury he had, though. Cam always is the type that he wants to wait to see if it's going to heal first.
I think he was super scared of the knife early on in his career.
Do you blame him for that when you're the quarterback of the football team and the entire team's success depends on you being out there?
I'm blaming him for it. I'm just saying that I've always felt like that was a Cam thing, though, to think that it's going to see if it can heal naturally. Yeah. He waits 2, 3, 4 months too long. Then he has a surgery, and when's the last time really, no, because he was still limited last year. When's the whole time Cam was there for a whole training camp from start to finish?
I don't think it's been ever, to be honest.
I feel like every year I felt like we've had to see Derek Anderson throw. We've had to see Kyle Allen run with the ones.
Because if you go through his like the years, the first year was the lockout.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It might have been that second season.
Yeah,
I can't remember if the ankle was the second or the third. Right.
I feel like it was the third, because we were facing, I remember, Cincinnati, and that's when they were twisting Greg Olson's ankles and Cam Newton's ankles. So I think it would have been his third season.
And I think, too, that they were really protective of that same ankle injury the following year after that season. So that was 2. And then 15. So, I mean, like, he was limited in 15. It was never just like he's been throwing from day one, leading the team, right? They've always he's always off on the side doing this stupid shit with Mike Shula. Right, and working on this pocket movement that never changed. And then it started in 2016. It was shoulder, and then 2017. I mean, this has been shoulder since then.
Yeah, but this is what I'll say. The biggest 2 reasons why Cam is not here is, one, the whole extension thing. I mean, Cam might not have made a big deal out of it, but an agent is going to make a big deal out of it, somebody that you see as a fast quarterback or whatsoever playing on a 1-year deal with no guarantee. And then the second is thinking about the future. Say we had, whether it was Cam or Teddy Bridgewater, most people felt like we weren't going to be good this year, right? So
I mean, it's a hard question. Is right now it looks like we could be all right on offense, right? We might have the best.
2015 too.
I've been saying that the whole offseason. Joe Brady's not going to let that offense look but so bad, because he's going to be a head coach in the next 3 years. But either way, if we draft the quarterback of the future, sign the quarterback of the future with all the cap money we have next year, Teddy Bridgewater's ego, humility, whatever you want to say, it will allow him to be a backup quarterback, and he won't make a big deal out of it. Say if we suck this year and we did get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or whoever next year, I don't see Cam being happy being a backup.
Hell no, because he's not a backup.
So I don't. Teddy Bridgewater right now. If we drafted one of them next year, we could start one of them, and Teddy Bridgewater wouldn't open his mouth.
Yeah.
Or what if Tua fell to us at 7 and we picked Tua and then we said we're going to go with Teddy all year? You don't feel like Teddy's going to try to force a trade or some shit?
Yeah. Well, Teddy Bridgewater hasn't.
I watched his interview yesterday when he chose to still back up Drew Brees. He could have went. He said Miami wanted him real bad.
Because he thought he was getting that starting job.
Yeah, he thought Drew Brees
thought he was getting that starting job.
That would be a
how long would he have had to
cushy
wait?
idea.
Drew Brees just came back again.
I know.
Well, he just came back again now.
Retire. Yeah.
Right. He thought, but we didn't know that before. He thought he was going to retire this year. Everybody thought he was going to retire this year.
Yeah, like I'm like the reality is, I mean, I think they should have kept Teddy Bridgewater, but let's be honest. The reason I agree with you, Money, is because he hasn't proven anything. Like he has an entire career of injuries and mediocrity with his figures. Like then if you look at his stats, you want to point out his, Cam Newton stats. Look at Teddy Bridgewater's stats. Teddy Bridgewater's stats aren't even anywhere in the ballpark as good as Cam Newton's. So that's why Cam Newton deserves to be a starting quarterback, and he should never be sitting behind another quarterback unless he comes back this year and he just shits the bed. Then at that point in time, he has to maybe have a talk with himself. Do I want to continue to play football, or am I going to make this a big deal and then do something else? Because I'm not going to be a starting quarterback if I shit the bed this year.
That's true, but I just don't see Cam ever being comfortable with that. If you're going to roll with Cam, you have to be 100% behind Cam.
Yeah,
right. You should be like that with any. You should be like that with any player you're with.
Can I just say how much it infuriates me on my inside that Drew Brees is still playing with the Saints and Matt Ryan is still playing with the Falcons and Cam Newton isn't here anymore, dude.
I know.
That fucking pisses me off, man.
And you know what fucking infuriates me about this whole situation is that Cam Newton is homeless right now, jobless. Kirk Cousins makes more money than half of South America put together. And damn, like you look around, and Nick Foles continues to be a starter. Like the world, it's like. It's a Greek tragedy. This is a tragedy.
I don't want to make it a big thing like that, but we know it comes down to a certain degree of race. I mean, we just seen Colt McCoy get another job.
I know. No, you're right.
I do think you're onto something, T-Money, though, with the idea that, like, some of these guys' personalities, it might not be that they're better or worse, they're better than Cam. That's not the point. Is their personalities more conducive to a role player, more conducive to a backup? So you know what I'm saying? You can bring Colt McCoy in a day and then let him leave the next day and nobody's gonna fucking notice. You bring Cam Newton in, it's gonna rearrange the room.
But can I also say it's hard to make the race argument when we cut a black quarterback and we sign 2 black quarterbacks and cut a white quarterback. Like we cut a white and a black quarterback and we signed 2 black quarterbacks, so it's hard to make the race argument in there.
You can definitely make it longer in the league if you're a white quarterback with no personality.
Okay, but I'm just talking about with Carolina. You can't say it's a race thing with Carolina. We just signed 2 black quarterbacks and cut a white and a black quarterback. So yeah, I'll give you that. Legal. Okay.
There's a lot of people that we've said, how do they still have a job in the NFL?
Yeah, you're right. Jones. You're right about that. Yeah, you're right about that. But
I mean, I don't know, man. We have more calls?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Let's do it.
Anyhow, Josh from Mass again. Anyhow, those fans who went and watched this team lose in Schaefer Stadium and Foxborough Stadium, they were vindicated because Tom Brady wasn't really a thing until right before Gillette Stadium was a thing, and he was kind of the beginning of all the winning for them. But at the same time, there was a lot of greats on that team that got to be part of the coming out of the shadows of the AFC and no longer being a team that just got the crap kicked out of them by the Colts every year. And I think a lot of us had that kind of story in mind for the Panthers when we got a new owner who said he wanted to win and, all this. And now it just seems like, we're going to throw a bunch of big names together on a team, and the only real cohesion is that they all know the coach or knew the coach or played for the coach or are friends with the coach or whatever. I feel like right now there's a little too much cronyism going on in that locker room, in that building. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm really wishing that on that fateful Tuesday morning, that instead of just going with Matt Rule, that we had at least interviewed Josh McDaniels, that we would have, you know, done the due diligence and taken the time and really taken a better look at Eric Bieniemy, because I feel like to some degree, I feel like Rule is just a yes man right now.
Yes.
He's just kind of going with the flow. You know, he's being now, of course, now that more things have been cleared out, you know, he's being given more control over things, and I think that's obvious based on the people we're picking up. Yeah, it's just going to be real hard to be a Panthers fan for the next couple of years, you know, especially because for me, I was at Cam's last game. That's something I will always say that will haunt the shit out of me. I was at Cam's last game.
So
Not
were
just
we.
his last game as a Panther. To date, his last game in Bank of America. I'm sure he's going to show back up there, and I'm sure he's going to tear the Panthers up, and I'm sure they're going to deserve it. They do deserve it. This has been a massive disservice to not only Cam and his legacy, but to the fans. To all those kids who got game balls, to all the fans, to all the charity work he's done in town. Come on, the man don't deserve better. Mr. Tepper, start pounding, you old fool.
All right, question I want to open with CK, and then you pass the mic. Level of concern when it comes to rules. What is it when you bring in nepotism? Right? Is your level of concern, is this him looking for comfort and familiarity, or does this show his unfamiliarity with the NFL?
I think it makes it easier for people to buy into what he's selling if he has people that have already bought in before. You know, I think that type of buy-in can be contagious. And I think right now what he's looking for is an entire group of grown men who believe they're the best athletes in the world, who may have a bit of a complex when it comes to authority figures, you know, to be able to buy into what he's saying. The part of it that I will disagree with Josh from Mass on is saying that Matt Rule is a yes man. I don't think he's a yes man. I think that the reason that it took one interview for them to hire him is because Matt Rule's and David Tepper's vision for the future of this franchise are so in line with one another that Tepper has basically given him the reins. So I agree with Bat Daddy when he says that these are decisions Rule is making, because I don't think that this is a yes man move. I think this is we are all on the same page with what we're doing moving forward, and that's what's happening here.
The scary part about hearing that, though, is that Matt Rule is really, his fingerprints are all over the move forward. That's the scary part. Cody, is this him seeking familiarity with players that he knows, or is this a sign of his unfamiliarity with the NFL?
Well, yeah, but I want to, we got to stop pretending like not everyone does this. Yeah. I mean, Ron Rivera's doing this in Washington. Dave Gettleman's doing this in New York. Brandon Beane's doing this in Buffalo. This happens all the time. When coaches or players or GMs have a connection, they build on that rapport, and they say, okay, I was able to make something work over there. I trust that I can make it work again over here. And listen, I'm just not going to be critical on Matt Rule right now. You know why? Because Matt Rule is the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and I have not been able to judge him coaching a football game in the NFL. So at the end of the day, like I said, man, people, if you want to shoot your blame one way or the other, fine. Everyone's emotions are raw right now. Everyone feels a certain kind of way. That's fine. I understand that. But everyone's kind of picking and choosing where they want to put their blame on. Oh, well, Matt Rule should have never said that he wanted to work with Cam Newton, and then now that's not going to happen. Well, yeah, okay, but what was he supposed to say when at the time he was still on the football team And even
Yeah,
Ian,
yeah, of course.
even Ian Rappaport had turned around and started reporting that Cam Newton was likely to be the Panthers going into next season. So I don't blame Matt Rule for doing literally anything that he's done at a point in time where he's been brought in. He knows he has a long leash. He's not under pressure to win a Super Bowl right now. I'm not going to be down on Matt Rule until he gives me a reason to not believe in what he's doing.
Well, the only reason to be down on him, it's not now, it's later on. If Cam Newton is the comeback player of the year and teams are, that'll be the one thing that will always.
And if that
But
happens,
when you make that choice, sometimes it's that choice for right then, and you just have to deal with it.
Well,
I'm
but
sure
Tony,
I'm sure it was probably some Packer fans when Brett Favre was playing well for the Vikings and getting them to the NFC Championship game, saying, "Oh, we should have kept Brett Favre." Blah, blah, blah. But our face is just annoying because we do that whole, when Cam comes back, Cam should just tear us up and have 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. When Steve Smith comes back, I hope he gets 200 yards on it.
And he
I
did.
don't see the fan base do all that stupid crying stuff.
Well, Steve Smith did tear us up when he came back, just so you know.
My thing is this. Let's say
but he
Cam
also
Newton,
lost 15 to 20 pounds.
but let's say Cam Newton does that next year and does have an MVP season or a comeback season and plays well. Well, in my mind, even still, the people holding the reins to the organization right now are first and foremost David Tepper, and then right under him is his little lapdog Marty Herney, and just putting out his will. I don't think that Matt Rule right now is superseding the decisions made by David Tepper and Marty Herney. You cannot get me to believe that.
Oh, please. I got this. Let me hop on real quick. Okay. First of all, Matt Rule, we know for a fact, one, he'll lie to you. We've seen it happen. We've seen it. I'm not saying everything he says is a lie, but we know for a fact he has no problem lying to you. Okay. So we go back and look at Matt Rule. Had an interview with the Jets. Didn't go there because he didn't want to wanted to have more control of the team, which means one, he wants control of the team. Didn't go to the Giants because they didn't offer him enough money. So why did he come to Carolina in the first interview? Because we gave him control of the team and offered him a huge contract. That's why he came here. Okay, that's why Matt Rule is here. It was whoever gave him control and whoever gave him the most money, he was going to. He had no loyalty to anybody coming in the NFL. Okay, so second of all, I want to say we on this show criticized Ron Rivera and castrated him and told him he was a piece of shit and basically ran him out of here because he was signing players and playing players that he wanted.
I'll have a correction to this.
Matt Rule is doing the exact same thing right now.
But here's
we are praising him for it, and the players he is signing and choosing to start are unproven guys. At least the guys Rivera had were proven guys that were one-time Pro Bowlers, or at least
Ron Rivera didn't sign any of the free agents that was signed last year.
I'm glad you brought that up. So that means that whenever this happens, that means that we need to either relieve Ron Rivera of the criticism we've given him, or we need to hold Matt Rule to the same criticism.
They're two
it's a major difference. It's a major difference in the two. You're not going to compare us signing Robbie Anderson to us keeping Britton Burson for 3, 4, 2.
Everybody is wrong on this. Our coaches are not signing the players. Matt Rule. Okay, listen. Yeah.
Okay. Then why did you get so mad at Ron Rivera?
So David Baylor. Wait, hold on a minute. Okay, yeah, we're signing Baylor players. We're signing Temple players. We know this, okay? But the criticism between Ron Rivera and Matt Rule were two different things, because we had young, talented players on the roster that Ron Rivera would flat out refuse to play. Right now, what are we criticizing Matt Rule for? Okay, what he lied about wanting to play with Cam Newton. For all we know, Matt Rule wanted to play with Cam Newton, and David Tepper said, "No, I'm not signing over for a third year in a row the reins to a quarterback that tanked both of the last 2 seasons." So I don't understand. Like, there's no way to compare them, especially after Ron Rivera had 9 seasons in Carolina and never produced a back-to-back winning season. And
Neither coach ever played for us, ever coached for us. Neither coach has ever coached for us. Let me ask you something, Cody. If we sign a player, let's just say randomly we sign a linebacker next year, just Joe Scobert, whatever his name is. I don't know if he's signed or not. Let's just use it for an example.
Yes,
we signed him.
Jacksonville.
We signed him next year to a deal where he's making $15 million a year. Okay, which for that position I believe is a pretty decent paycheck. Okay, but then we have a guy come in that's a rookie that we picked up in the 7th round is playing better. Okay, who do you want playing on the field? Do you want the guy you're paying $15 million a year, or the guy you picked up in the 7th round?
The guy you picked, whoever's playing better.
Rivera. That's not what Matt was done. Ron Rivera had, like, we forget. Ron Rivera made Jonathan Stewart the starter and Christian McCaffrey the backup. The dude
in Christian McCaffrey's rookie year, and I think Jonathan Stewart still had like 700, 800 yards.
Nah, Jonathan Stewart was trash by that point.
Well, at the end,
here's the thing: is that you're comparing the end of an era to the beginning one, so we just don't know. But I will also tell you, I have a 10-inch cock. Guess what you just learned about me?
That you're
that I will fucking lie to you. That I will lie to you, asshole. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's go to
you can't compare that. Ron Rivera consciously, between him and Jerry Richardson, made decisions that weren't for the best thing for this football team, just to keep veterans in the game.
One last question for Greg. Greg, do you think Cam Newton isn't on this team anymore because Matt Rule gave him the axe?
I think Matt Rule had a part in it because Matt Rule has said that I am the one in charge of this. I'm the one.
Do you believe he had the lion's share of say so in this decision?
Yeah, I do think. I bet you that he pushed the momentum there. All right.
Yeah, I think that he had a big.
I want to disagree with Cody, and I disagree with Cody on this point that I do think that Matt Rule is more influential in these personnel decisions. I don't think he's just sitting here going.
Everybody else said, Cody.
Yeah, like I don't think he's just sitting here waiting, saying, "Oh, I hope you guys get me some good players." Mm-hmm. Right?
And we happen to find two Baylor,
obviously they're
players.
Him. I mean, no one's doing that.
That is normal. That is what team.
It is normal, but we gave Ron Rivera hell for it
because he was sorry at it. He was sorry at it.
It wasn't just that.
Tuafua, what was his name?
But we're upset about all the players that are leaving now that he had.
We're not upset about them. Actually, are we really upset about anybody other than Cam Newton?
No, I mean,
we benched Josh Norman for a whole year because he talked back to Ron Rivera one time, and we started Drayton Florence and Antoine Cason over Josh Norman.
And Josh Norman had one good year, and Josh Norman had one good year in his career, and then it's been garbage ever since then. So yeah, I mean, I get that.
Drayton Florence and Antoine Cason, who they benched by week 3, week 4.
Remember old Deku?
Josh Norman's better than them. I'll give you that one. I can't argue that.
But he went on and didn't do much. I actually don't think anybody were jettisoning other than Cam. Cam Newton just brings the emotional factor. But all right, let's continue through with the calls. We still got more to go. Let's see what this is. I forgot what.
What's going on, guys? This your boy, the Black Cat, Brandon Herbert. I know your line is probably lit up and everything. I just finished the podcast from last week or whatever. And I'm first of all, I'm disappointed in a lot of Carolina Panthers fans, and I'm starting to get pissed off. Because all right, could they have handled the situation with Cam better?
Yeah.
Yes. Nobody is saying that they handled it perfectly. But if motherfucking Tom Brady, that spent 20 years with the organization, got told basically that we don't want you here no more. Actually,
He's
Bill Belichick tried to tell him 2 years ago if he can get on another team, if Peyton Manning can be with the other teams, Joe Montana, the list goes on and on. Cam is not like, I mean, I get everybody. I'm looking at it from a business perspective, and it pisses me off that y'all don't get that. And not everybody, because I actually appreciate G's call, because I agree with 1,000% of everything he said last week. And I don't understand a lot of Carolina Panthers fans. And ask anybody, with the first go around, I was the biggest person that was yipping and hollering for Marty Hurton to get fired. But I'm tired of y'all acting like that he hasn't been doing a decent job.
Yeah.
Go back to some of the calls that I called back before. I've been harping about Teddy Bridgewater for the longest because I thought he would be a good fit. We got Teddy Bridgewater a few months ago. Look at my Twitter account. I've been harping about Robbie Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
We got Robbie Anderson. Now the sad thing, the only thing I will give you is we've tried to put the weapons around Cam through the draft and everything, but we've never gotten a talented receiver in free agency. So it's kind of a bummer that we do it once he leaves.
Yeah, but he's even.
But I'm tired of this shit
too.
that y'all can't. Like, it's a business. Cam Newton, he'll be fine. I hope he's successful wherever he goes. But y'all,
if all these people,
I don't get y'all, like, for real. Like, all the calls and all Twitter.
Because I don't think that we have been. I actually think we've been kind of reserved. That's Brandon Herbert.
Brandon Herbert, best call in.
Let me say something.
Don't tell
Brandon,
him that.
While Brandon, I say you agree it's a business, so you kind of want to be cutthroat, and I get that because that's a mindset you want to have. Well, if it's a business, then I don't want to hear anything else about people talking about Colin Kaepernick coming into the league. It's a business. He got cut because he couldn't play. So if that's the way we're going to be, I don't want to hear anything about that. See people talk about Tim Tebow coming back in the league. It's a business. He got cut. He can't play.
Kaepernick sitting at the crib right now is better than Nick Foles.
Possibly.
All right, so here, I want to go back to the thing. First,
right.
I think that this is a little opportunistic by Brandon Herbert. Right, because first of all, what I have done for the last 2 years since Marty Hurney took over from Dave Gettleman has praised his work so far. And I don't even think this destruction of the team has been done in a poor fashion, right? So, no. But we do believe that Marty Hurney is a dead man walking. I do believe that. And the real point of the matter, though, is that the people who are not going on crying and saying, I'm going to write a love poem for Cam, right? And I am one of those people, too, I think, because I've tried to be like, I've been trying to be stable in this.
Yeah.
But I think really the end of the question, it just comes down to is, do you think that Cam Newton is done?
No.
Or is he going to get better? And that, I think,
it
is the
depends
only
on the
reason.
Situation.
Sometimes you have to deal with that when you move on.
That's fine. That's fine.
Peyton Manning went to 2 Super Bowls after he left the Colts and won one of them.
Yeah, but there's also times where you get it wrong, too. Drew Brees, look, Phillip Rivers. So you just, that's the thing, is we might, you're right, is that we might move on and things can't work out for Cam, and it turns out it was the right decision. Kind of like Dave Gettleman said, every now and then you got to let a big dog walk. I get that.
All Tepper is saying is he's not going to be the one to take that bet. But if we had, first of all, 2 different scenarios. One, if we did all this, didn't sign Teddy, and we go into the year with Cam, Kyle Allen, and Will Greer again, and Cam gets hurt again, who you gonna cry to? Who you
But then we end up in the same position we're going to end up in next year anyway.
You gonna be
at the end of next season anyway.
I don't want to watch Kyle Allen for another year. I don't care who it is. I don't care if we didn't sign Teddy Bridgewater and we just signed what's the dude from the XFL?
PJ Walker.
I don't want to watch Kyle Allen for another year. I don't.
No, I don't either.
Well, you won't have to.
No, you won't have to unless you watch Washington. But let me ask you, what's a bigger risk? Taking somebody that you know is proven, that you've already paid for, that is on your team, that knows the system, that's familiar with the community, that may or may not be as good as they were because of injury, or taking somebody else who's just as injury prone, that has no idea about the system we're running, that is less proven.
Besides that fluke injury, what injury did Teddy Bridgewater have?
Besides Cam Newton's fluke
injury,
backup-itis.
No.
And you know what? I'll pull it up for you. Teddy Bridgewater's had a lot of injuries.
Remember, this dude has been knocked unconscious on the
he's
field.
Had a lot of injuries.
Like 3 times.
A lot of wrist injuries, hip injuries. He's had a lot of injuries.
Too, then Cam is definitely injury prone. Because we're gonna
no, dude. I'm talking Teddy Bridgewater got. There was a game against Seattle where Teddy Bridgewater got knocked unconscious for like straight up 10 seconds. Cam Newton has never been knocked like.
So what are we going?
I'm just asking, what's a bigger risk?
Are we gonna pretend like we didn't see the game where Cam slowed down going into the end zone against Atlanta?
Atlanta. Oh God, that mug.
And he
got
still
concussed.
got in the end zone, didn't he?
He did get in the end zone, but
he got in the end zone. So
missed 2 weeks.
And he finished.
But he did
finished the game.
Missed 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But Cam Newton has also taken a bunch of other hits that we know Teddy Bridgewater will never.
I don't think it's fair to say that to either write him off as injury prone or clear him based on the fact he just hasn't played. Yeah, is that like? So we don't know. We'll find out if he gets hurt this year. If he gets hurt this year, then we can do it. All right, 252-228-59.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
you told him it was a great call.
Cam Newton this and Cam Newton that. I promise you, and I've stopped complaining about the problems that I had with Cam and everything. I love Cam, and I wish that he would have given him this last year. I've been saying that for the longest. We should at least let him play out this last year. But don't act like he hasn't been injured the last couple of years. I mean, he's a big man, so once these injuries start happening, it has a chance of continuously happening. It's like an offensive lineman when they injure their knee or their shoulder. They continuously have problems because they're bigger people. So don't act like he's the same old Cam, the 2015 Cam. Not saying he can't get back to that, but don't act like that.
All right, I gotta go.
It's
Unless
a business.
you're gonna talk about James Bradbury, I don't want to hear anymore.
Just leave it at that. Wish Cam well and move on. Carolina didn't do anything wrong when it comes to letting him go. They made the right decision in their eyes.
Well, I could say in their eyes. Nice caveat there.
Hey, fellas. Pigskin Pete here for 2 weeks in a row. Glad to see that Cody's back and healthy.
Thanks,
Look, I'm going to lay it down simple, man. I'm tired. I'm really tired of listening and reading all these Carolina Panther fans. All they do is cry and whine, and everything's doom and gloom. This team doesn't know what they're doing. David Tepper needs to be fired. You can't fire the owner, you dumb fuck. Look.
Damn.
A lot of you people apparently are new Panther fans, maybe just since Cam Newton got there. But this franchise has been dysfunctional for a long time. It's time for a new era in Carolina. Give David Tepper a chance to do what he's doing. He's blowing the team up on purpose. That's very clear. He's getting rid of all the blue chip players outside of maybe Christian McCaffrey. But all the old players, they're getting rid of everybody. Why are they doing that? They're doing it to tank. Why are they tanking? Because they want a franchise quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback. He's not the future. They know that. They're going after Trevor Lawrence, hopefully, or Justin Fields from Ohio State. The future is bright. We had to sit through a season of crap. But I've been a Carolina Panthers fan since the day they became a franchise in 1995. I've seen lots of crap.
93, they were awarded the
I can
franchise
sit through
tag.
one more. You people have short memories. What was the season like before Cam Newton got there?
The fucking
Crap.
worst moment of my life.
It's been crap the past couple of years, too. Hell, it was crap before David Tepper got there. Ron
we went to as
Rivera
many Super Bowls before Cam Newton got
allowed
there as we
Cam
did when he was there.
to play hurt for 2 seasons with
saying.
2 separate injuries and ruined Cam Newton.
Yeah.
This is what you
Y'all
get.
are gonna miss fucking Cam Newton, bitches.
This is
Y'all
what you
bitches
get.
are gonna
Hell
miss
yeah. Stop
some
crying about
fucking
it,
Cam
bitches.
Newton. That's what I'm gonna say. Y'all gonna miss it. This is the problem. Concerns. My number one concern right now is that the Panthers are gonna be an 8-8 team. You know, or it's 6-9.
I don't know why are people confused about that. Matt Rule said it clearly in his press conference that he feels like when he gets to a team that he starts a new program, he starts a new tradition, he gets them used to winning. He said in his press conference, I don't think in the NFL it will take that long because in the NFL you can easily more so bring in the guys that you want to bring in than a college program. A college program, that first year, you're forced to play with the other coaches, recruits, all that kind of stuff. Whatever his team was, you're forced to play with that team. They are not tanking. Are they going to win a lot of games? They just might not because...
All right, well then tell me this, Team Money, what the fuck is going on with the defense?
The defense, I think they're just going to have a mostly defensive draft. But even the guys they signed, like Whitehead, yes, he was a Temple guy, but he is a good linebacker. He does play a lot of games and make a lot of tackles. He's not Luke Kuechly. Nobody's going to be Luke Kuechly. We'll probably never have another Luke Kuechly. But is he a good, serviceable linebacker in the league? Yes. The guy we got from the Vikings, Weatherly, who does he remind me of? A young Mario Addison. A guy that was stuck on a team where he wasn't getting playing time. Does pass rush when he's in there. I watched him. He backed up Everson Griffin and Daniil Hunter, who wouldn't sit behind them too.
And you know, I gotta say, there's a reason he backed them up. And if you've played for 7 or 8 years in the NFL and you haven't been a breakout player, you're not all of a sudden in your 8th or 9th year going to be a breakout player.
This is
not going to happen.
He's
very young.
He's only 25. And go look at how long Mario Addison really didn't play before he started producing for us.
Yeah, he was like with 3 teams.
But listen, am I the only one on here that could, like, listen, guys, I've been through 2 seasons of hell where my expectations were so high. We thought Cam Newton was going to come back and tear it up, and for it to just peter out. Like, is it really going to affect any of you that much if we have to suffer through another? I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough, especially us having to do a podcast about it. But like, if we do win 3 or 4 games, and it's clear that we're trying to get a better quarterback next season, like, I'm fine with that, dude. I'm so fine. Listen, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to go from my favorite player ever in Cam Newton to Teddy Bridgewater, and it's like what Pigskin Pete said in that call. Like, that isn't going to really give me a ton of confidence that we're going to be a team that can go out there and just rip shit up, even in spite of our defense. Like, I have no problem.
Dude, we're probably going to we're going to be pissed when we got like the best offense that we've had in a while.
Yeah, I think that's how next year is going to be. We're going to be scoring 20, 25, 30 points, but we're going to give up 35, 40.
Yeah. That's going to be the problem. And I think that's where difference of culture, right? You know, Ron Rivera wanted to run the ball, drain the clock, which resulted in very low scoring affairs. And I don't think we're going to have that. I was really hoping to be able to see Cam Newton in an offense that was going to actually air the ball out, allow him to get 300 yards every single season, or every single game and whatnot. But, because of the situation being what it is, we're not going to get to see that, at least here. we'll see what happens.
And Teddy Bridgewater, we said this a lot last week, is that if you extract Cam Newton from the emotional component of this, we would be very excited.
Bridgewater is the next best case scenario.
Yep. All right, next call.
I hate when people play his
money. And really, we could
this
have
is you.
made
I'm
sure.
skipping your call.
Hi, what's up, C3 family?
Carl D.
Going on, the professor.
What up, Carl?
Professor T.
Now he's got to
Greg,
remember everybody else's. He's working.
The daddy's man himself, Mr. CK. And welcome back, Cody. Hope you're feeling better.
Carl D.
Anyways, hey, Cody, you missed it last week. I was so pissed with the way they did Cam. You probably would have been proud of me. The way that ranted went off on him. The man, the way they did the man who put the Panthers on the map, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah. But anyway, I'm just calling to say what's up to you guys. Hope everybody is being safe during this time. My job hasn't, we haven't had a stay at home quarantine yet. So, I guess that's good. Then again, I don't know if it's great either. But anyway, I heard a little bit of what y'all were talking. I got the show a little bit late today. My thoughts are just like last week. The organization has no benefit of the doubt with me anymore. No benefit. So, like I said last week, I'm
with you, man.
in a rush. I'm not going to be too happy to watch any games this year.
Well, the good news is you shouldn't have given them a lot of benefit of the doubt before, because they haven't really been good at any of this.
Now might be the day that I go fishing during the Panther game. So, but hey, I will still be you guys, be a part of the family. You guys on Tuesday nights.
Word up.
Oh, by the way, my cousin says he wants to join me one night coming on the podcast.
Your
So
cousin? Did he go to Temple? If he went to Temple,
we'll try to make it happen.
We'll
try to get
one
here
day
and get him
soon. All
signed
right,
as well.
guys. Somebody tell me we have some good. Well, never mind. We don't have any good news.
All right.
We
Thanks, Carl, dude. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, hey, real quick, we were talking a second ago about the Panthers wanting to move to a team where they're going to be a higher points per game team, more in like the 20 to 30 point range. I just want to let y'all know last year,
rule offense.
Last year we were 5-11 and we averaged 21.5 points a game. And I'm sitting here looking at the stats. Last year, minus 2014. Last year we scored 340 points the whole year. 2014 we scored 339. Excuse me, so one less point. Every other year Cam Newton's been a quarterback, we scored more points than that. So we have averaged more than 22 points a game Cam Newton's entire career. And by stats, any team that scores 17 or more points a game has like a 68% chance of winning that game. Okay, so we've been a team that scored points.
Well, we tried to test that to the limit for the first 5 years because we scored 17 points a game for 6 years straight at one point, I feel like.
There's no way.
Can I hit you with a stat to look up, though? Can I hit you with a stat to look up, though?
Yeah.
What's Cam's record? This is something to work on. What's Cam's record when he throws for more than 300 yards?
Ooh, let me look at that.
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough stat to mine.
I bet you it's probably. I actually bet you the higher the yards is, the more
we
lost.
I would bet you that Cam doesn't have a lot of 300-yard games in his career.
He doesn't, but that's because of the.
I really think he does. Yeah.
that's because of the way that Ron Rivera wanted the offense to run. That's why I was excited about the idea of a Joe Brady offense, getting Cam Newton to actually shut people up. People wanted to point out his points. I mean, like, he actually had comparable numbers through his first 8 seasons to some of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. And you know, if you want to get realistic about it, and he was being held back. He was not being.
We were starting to see some of it with Norv Turner, man.
Yes,
we were starting to see it.
Cam Newton has 22 games with over 300 yards in his career, and of those games, it doesn't show. Oh, of those games, let's see, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
That was 2015.
Loss,
yeah, I was about to say we saw where 2015 hit.
So he's about 500 when he's throwing 300 yards a game is what it looks like. About 500. So the stats kind of null and void based on that.
All right, let's circle back to Brandon Herbert's call real quick, where he was talking.
Best passing games outside of 2015 that I can think of were losses. The wild card game when we lost to the Saints. The game he had against Atlanta in, 2018, where McCaffrey had 100 receiving yards and we lost.
Against Atlanta, that was 2018. You're right. We lost 31-24. Most of his games that he won, let's see. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 2015. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 in 2015. All the rest of his wins were in different seasons. So 4 games 2015. You're looking at probably of 22 games, probably another 7 or 8 games outside 2015. So I mean, he's about a 500 quarterback.
He was like Cam Newton was a 2-touchdown, 212-yard quarterback for a lot of years.
Add 75 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
exactly. That's a perfect Cam.
Yeah,
that is all right. I was interested is that. When you were talking, Cody, about the nepotism that all the teams do it, you're not lying when it comes to what you're seeing Gettleman do. Going and getting
Gettleman, Sean McDermott, and Ron Rivera are all picking apart our old team.
Yeah, crazy. All right,
and that happens everywhere. When Matt Patricia got the job in Detroit, he took Danny Amendola. He took some other ex-Patriots.
Commonplace. It happens all the time.
I do think the good news about it for us is like Robbie Anderson is the best thing. That's like the most exciting addition we've had on offense.
Well, I think you should quote that. I think you should quote that tweet you retweeted, Tony, where it was expressing the irony behind the same day that Cam Newton gets released, that we sign Robbie Anderson in the entire tenure of Cam Newton. The closest person to the person who made even close to that amount of money that we signed in free agency as a wide receiver was Russell Shepard at $3.3 million per year. That's $7 million difference per year. So the moment we decide to cut Cam is the moment we decide to start signing, free agent acquisitions.
What a shocker!
That's called
the fact that people will probably ignore, and I'm putting in my video that's coming out tonight, is that not only was he a Matt Rule fan, he also said on the Golick and Wingo show that wherever Teddy Bridgewater went was probably gonna have a big deal to do with his free agency choice from when Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah.
Wow, didn't hear that. All right, so the Panthers do have a story up on Panthers.com that says "Thank you, Cam" or video. We'll see what that's about later on. We added a guard in John Miller. We've been adding a little bit of pieces. The draft's coming up. The exit question is: do the Panthers draft defense or offense in round 1? No explaining. Just tell me what you think's gonna happen. Cody, you start.
Has to be defense. That's what I imagine. You want the player or just defense?
Nope, just defense or offense. All right, because Scott was saying that we could be in the running for a tackle. There are so many holes that I feel like it feels necessary to go defense. Does anybody on this on this panel believe that an offensive player will be selected in round 1?
I think it'll be a special teams.
Yeah, or only if it's a Temple or Baylor player that Matt Rule just can't pass up on. That's the only reason I think.
The only way that we
I'm kidding you. There's no Temple or Baylor player that's worth the first round pick. So
the only way that we do is if we do have our eyes set on building around a franchise quarterback later on, and we do decide that either Andrew Thomas or Jedrick Wills is too good to pass up on right now. That's the only other way.
Or who's the other one? Wilfs or what's his name?
So there's Tristan Riffs.
That guy.
Yeah, from Iowa is who you're thinking of. Yeah, he's my number he's my number 3 rated tackle in this class.
The one way I see us going offense in the first round.
So what?
You have him over Becton?
Yeah, I have him over Becton because he had more true pass rush sets. So they didn't ask Mekhi Becton to pass protect a lot at Louisville. It doesn't mean that he can't do it. He has more upside, but Tristan Riffs is a better all-around player right now. Yeah.
Okay.
I do think there's one thing to consider is that the idea of taking a tackle on day 1 does speak to me a little bit because I feel like you can find defensive players in round 2 a lot easier than you can find second round tackles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only question. But right now, I think it's going to be we could draft 7 defensive players and still need 7 free agents to fill this defense out.
The only way I think we go offense is if we trade back and we get more picks in the first round than we have now. So that way we would have an offensive and a defensive player. I think we still draft defense in the first round, but I completely agree. I think defense is the way to go. We have nobody on defense right now.
All right.
But even if I traded back, I think it would be for Kinlaw, and then we might take an offensive player out.
See, do you think Kinlaw is going to fall back that far? I heard somebody in the chat room earlier talking about around like 15th. Do you think Kinlaw is going to fall back to 15th?
Dude, no one knows, man. I don't think it's an overdraft if he's drafted at 7. Like I have no problem.
I have concerns about taking a defensive tackle that high.
I would
take
Isaiah Simmons over anybody first round.
At 7, then I would feel better if we took Derek Brown at 7 and Kinlaw. But I do think Kinlaw he has a high range of where he could go. It's just how
right.
Well, yeah. So it's kind of like the Mekhi Becton Tristan Riffs thing. Like I think Derek Brown is probably what you see is what you get right now. But I think in the long run, Javon Kinlaw will be able to do everything that Brown does and more. I think he'll be a much better pass rusher once he learns more moves. I think Kinlaw is going to, in the long run, be a better player.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and close this show down. We've gone on long enough. We do have one last segment, the Ice Up pick of the week, where we tell someone to ice up, toughen up, get it together. We thank all of you for your support tonight, chiming in the chat room, calling into the show. Give us one little last thumbs up, subscribe. We're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, guys. Who wants to jump in the Ice Up ring first?
Let me get mine out of the way. That way y'all can go ahead and talk, because mine's low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit, man. David Tepper, Ice Up. I'm going to start calling you David the Tank Tepper. I'm sorry. I don't like you. You haven't done anything since you've been here. You've done nothing for my franchise. It's made me feel positive about the future. You've stripped my team down to bare bones. I've had to retire every jersey I've had. David Tepper. And let me put this out there. I am willing to eat crow for a week. If in a year or 2 years we are just fine.
Will you eat owl?
I'll eat anything you want me to except shit. Right?
Don't say that. Just don't eat a bat.
Yeah, well, if I had to, I would. But I just do not see a future with the franchise. I do not see a vision you have. And from what I've seen so far, all you've done is disrespected the players that I've loved. You have ruined the decorum and the respect of this franchise. And I hope so badly that I'm wrong. But David Tepper, ice up. If I could, well, I'm not going to make any threats. So let's put
All right, who's next?
He's made our franchise. Oh god. As far as I heard, I ain't heard about him talking on no woman, so touching on no women. So I don't think he brought the franchise.
I'm not saying he's better than Jerry Richardson or he's worse than Jerry Richardson. I'm just saying David Tepper, rise up. The franchise was in better shape when Jerry Richardson was here,
So
at least player wise. So
I'll go next, man. Listen, this is a weird time for Panther fans. It's a weird time for people all over the world with this coronavirus horseshit. If I never had to hear the word or the phrase coronavirus put together again,
Amen.
it would be too fucking soon, man. But with all that, I mean, listen, maybe not so much Tony, but I know the rest of this panel is a bunch of nerds. We're all super nerds. Okay, we're into all the comics and all the cool shows and shit.
Yep.
And Tony's coming around too. But Marvel just dropped the fucking ball in the biggest way ever. They just put out 2 brand new characters, and I shit you not, their name are Snowflake and Safe Space. And by the way, one of these superheroes is the first gender fluid superhero ever. It's not a boy, it's not a girl. I have no idea if it's Safe Space or if it's Snowflake, and I could not give less of a fuck. At a time when people need heroes to lean on, you give us this bullshit, dude. Marvel, I normally love everything you do, but you can fuck right off and you can ice the fuck up, son.
Oh my God. All right, Cody, you got it? CK, you got anything?
Yeah, but I think I have to do this because of Greg. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're doing a mask off right now.
Yeah.
I have a voice modulator. So
Yeah, you have to.
You have a voice modulator. By the way, if you're listening on the audio podcast, Greg is in a stormtrooper. Stupid. All right.
Joe, like that?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So my ice up pick is going to be, I am a debt collector, right? And I still have to work from home and call people. Do you guys hear the voice change?
Yes.
Isn't that awesome? But yeah, so I have to continue to call these people at home and actually try to collect on debt and whatnot. And this goes twofold. The people who are right now telling me the reason they got behind on their accounts are telling me the coronavirus. That's why I can't pay. I'm like, you went behind a year ago. You didn't get behind in anticipation of the coronavirus. Let's get some stuff together, boys. But it's also the other way. There are a lot of people out of work, not able to actually make an income, make a living. And the fact that I have to continue to call people, especially in states like New York and California, who have officially shut down, to where being able to make an income may not be possible, especially people in the service industry, in sales and commission-based environments, things like that. So I feel like it's kind of a twofold thing, but people don't use Corona as an easy way out, right? Continue to try to do what's best for you and your family for the future, but don't. So often people just try to utilize these low-hanging fruit, as we talked about, as a way to make themselves feel better about a situation and saying that they're not, I'm not paying because of this. You could have paid throughout this whole process. There's clear evidence that you could have. So just try to, I guess, hold to your morals and fight through the easy way out. Take the path less traveled, I guess, is the way I'm trying to go about it. But ice up, son. Ice up.
I'm so tired of this fucking coronavirus. I'm with you, Cody. I'm so scared. I'm so sick too of every motherfucker in the world that believes that once they walk outside they get sick. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying for us to not to ignore social distance and rules, but like, you don't automatically fucking get it. All right.
No.
T Money, what you got?
Well, first of all, people, I will say, don't a lot of people like CK just hang up on them?
I get plenty of that. I get plenty of that. Just don't call me bad names, and then I'll be all right.
And then my ice up pick is Jamal Murray. So the NBA is not going on right now. You know, people trying to find stuff to do. A lot of the NBA players are streaming. Giannis Antetokounmpo is learning how to play the guitar. Well, Jamal Murray decided while they're not playing NBA games that on his Instagram, he wanted to post on his story getting hit.
Hey.
And then try to say that him posted it. Now, I don't know who got on your Instagram story and had a video of you getting that, but I'm gonna tell you to ice up Jamal Murray. Just say, you know, you messed up. At least say that. Don't try to say it wasn't you though.
He was scrolling through his camera roll. He was like, all right, what am I going to post? What am I going to? Oh, this is a cool little picture of my dog. Let me. Oh, shit.
That is not a dog.
Oh, shit. That thumbnail was misleading.
That's a bitch, all right, but not a dog. Shit. God. All right. I want to ice it. I do. I feel like I'm not going to ice up anything to do with the coronavirus and stuff because I am worried at in this world. What I've seen is that we're so quick to I've changed it. I used to call it internet lynching, but there's too much baggage that goes with the term, and it wasn't reflective of what I was trying to say. It's internet stoning is what we do. And where no single person kills a person, but they're all throwing stones until that person. So it doesn't matter. So like if you are a gun person, you could stone that person. If you're anti-gun, right? You never. And the coronavirus puts you in these crosshairs and shit. And I mean, it's just strange when I see these fucking guys walking. I saw a guy from a news network walk on the beach interviewing the kids at spring break, and his ass was wearing a hazmat suit. Like, I was just, all right. But my real ice up pick goes to internet malware and viruses. So last week, I told you guys we were having problems with the Google Voice. My browser's been doing strange stuff. Like, it just wouldn't give me, like, certain options, like in Google Drive and things like this. And I have been getting this somewhat pop-up message of a COVID alert app. Like, anyway, after us transitioning to a workplace where we have to work at home, my kids are homeschooling now on the internet. Both of our jobs are now online. We need all the computers. I spent all morning today once I figured it out, but I've spent like $70 in antivirus software and all of this. It fixed it and this and that. But you know where the fucking virus was at? On the router. On the router itself. So like my Fire Stick fucking wasn't working right. Like nothing was working right. And I ended up just factory resetting. So I have a year's worth or 2 years worth of security software where I just had to factory reset the router and redo all the shit. But now I have a VPN. So fuck y'all. I'm going into the dark net.
Do it.
Yeah.
Get one of the mystery boxes.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds interesting. All right, guys.
Human livers.
Yeah, it is the C3 Panthers podcast. We're here on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. until we're not. Thanks for joining us, T Money. You said you're dropping a video. Tell them where they can find it.
My YouTube is Mr. T Money 1993. It will be pretty much just a video welcoming Robbie Anderson to Carolina.
And you got to figure out if it's Robbie or Robby because his name is Robert.
I always said Robbie.
I know. Well, I've heard it all kinds of ways. All right, check out T Money 1993, aka Straight Facts. CK, where can they get you?
I'm Batman.
Okay.
No, you can get me at Codizzle Allen on Twitter. Simple as that. Give me the follows, man. I'm slowly creeping up there. I get one follower like every 3 days, and it's progress.
It's like this podcast. All right. Also, at Codizzle Allen, give him a follow. Greg, the Stat Daddy, the Bat Daddy, the Stormtrooper, the man of negative Nanciness tonight. Where can they find your negative ass self?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. You can find me a bunch of different places. You can contact me directly on Twitter at the Bad Daddy 52. It's the only form of social media I have. But you can also check me out at Superhero Discussions, talking about Spider-Man the animated series, on Geekverse podcast, talking about Batman,
Snowflake, and Safe Space.
I run another show. It's a Super Civil Servants podcast. This week we're talking about Batman Red Sun, and we're doing a Star Wars Jeopardy show. And then you can find me here every week. So there's plenty of places you can find me. I'm a podcast whore. I love to hear myself talk. So if you are not that annoyed with me, come check me out on my other stuff.
Cody, thanks for being part of the show. Cody Lashney, we tested your fucking endurance on this show tonight. Glad to have you back. Cody, how can they find your work? I know you are ready to get back to looking at the draft.
Oh, yeah. And once again, thank you to everybody for all the well wishes on Twitter and online, social media, from everybody here on the show, man. It means so much. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. I will be writing for drafttech.com still. Every Wednesday, there will be a brand new mock draft on drafttech.com. And it had to get put on hold, but at some point, me and CK are still going to deliver some better know potential Panther draft pick videos. Those will come down at some point. We don't know exactly how many we're going to do, but all the big name players that are going to be in contention at 7 or whatever for the Panthers, you're going to know all those players, and you're going to know why it's a good or a bad pick. So be on the lookout for those. They're going to drop on this channel. So that's it for me. Peace and love.
All right, that's the show. We'll see you back here next Tuesday. Thanks for everybody's support. Don't forget, keep pounding.